to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, August 4th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined as always by my co-hosts and co-analysts, CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What's up, guys?
Football!
Woo!
Football!
Football season is officially here. We had football last night. I mean, it was the first game of preseason football, but football nonetheless. I mean, we wait all offseason for football, and it's finally here. All of our teams will start to have games next weekend. That's exciting. So we have an amazing show for you guys today. Today, we're going to be taking a look at our consensus rankings, starting with our quarterback ranking. So this is going to be one of those shows you guys are going to want to download, bookmark, save, whatever you have to do to reference back to this, because we're going to be getting into a lot of talking points on these guys. We're also going to be, of course, bringing you all the top headlines from around the league. There is so much news to get to since we last spoke. So we're going to try and power through it all. As always, please make sure you guys subscribe to the show. We are on iTunes, we are on Stitcher, we're on Podcast Addict, we are on YouTube, we are all over the place. You can follow the show most easily. Submit your questions as well on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. You can join the community on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You can submit your email questions to thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. And of course, if you want to support the show, all you have to do is head over to Patreon and give us a rating, give us a review, all that stuff that you can do on iTunes, that helps. But if you go over to Patreon, you can help us keep these lights on, much more immediate. And, of course, you get some cool perks along the way with that, including bonus episodes every single week and a lot of exclusive offers as well. So if you guys like what you're hearing here and you think, I need one more show a week, you can get it over on patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. And, of course, we have to mention the iTunes Listener Review Challenge. It is still going strong, and if you guys want to play against the three of us in fantasy football this season, all you have to do is head over to iTunes, subscribe to the show, give us a rating, and give us a review. That's it. You are automatically submitted. Jason always has to throw in the bring it, and I concur. All you have to do, rating, review, and that's it. You're automatically submitted for a chance to be randomly selected to play against the three of us in fantasy football this season. The format is still, we'll figure that out once the winners are selected. We let you guys decide on that. So again, at the end of your review, please make sure you leave a Twitter handle or an email address so we can contact you if you are selected. We're getting closer, guys. Football's happened. Now I'm getting the itch to start drafting, but we have to wait. As we always preach, you should not be drafting yet, so pump the brakes. So we're going to start with a warm-up question today, and it's simply, what are your thoughts on the Hall of Fame game? My thought is simply that it actually happened. I'm so excited. If Jason, you weren't here, but last year with Ryan and CJ, we were talking about, okay, football, let's do this, and then the game got canceled, of course, because the ground conditions were too slick. So that was kind of ridiculous. Yeah. But it actually happened. The Cowboys and the Cardinals played. Cowboys did win, but that was accompanied by a number of missed field goals from the Cardinals. And I'm not going to go too in-depth on this because I know that being that one of our co-analysts here is a Cardinals fan, he's going to probably deep dive there. So I'm just going to pass it off. Before we get to that, CJ, is there anything you want to add?
I'll let Jason go first. I mean, he has a lot invested in this game.
He has a lot of feelings, I can see from his write-up.
I have the feels.
Yep.
I have the feels about this game.
All right.
Yeah, it was football. I love the preseason, and the reason I love the preseason is because you get to watch the young guys that are going to be around for a while, and they get an opportunity to actually play. So I'll start off with kind of the news of the night for me. I loved what I saw from Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert was very poised in that pocket. I mean, the pocket would be collapsing around him, and he never took his eyes from downfield. He was always searching for a target. Even a couple of times that he got sacked, the one issue I had with him is he fumbled the ball when he got sacked. That doesn't make me happy. But other than that, I mean, the guy was just really good. He showed his arm. I was laughing because Chris Collinsworth kept talking about his arm. I'm surprised he's got an arm. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? He's always had an arm. But I loved me some Blaine Gabbert. He played really, really well. 11 for 14 and 185 yards, I believe. On the other side, in the second half, we saw the other young quarterback, and I don't think he's going to have a job very much longer. He played pretty bad. Some of those passes that he threw weren't even in the same zip code. He held the ball too long. Just a lot of really bad things happened with Trevor Knight, so I don't think he's going to be around very much longer. Robert Nkemdiche looked really, really good. He was extremely disruptive. You know how the analysts like to circle players? Nkemdiche got circled like 4 times in the first quarter, and they were like, look at Robert Nkemdiche right here circling him, like you didn't know who he was at that point. This guy was beating double teams. He blew up a run at one point and caused a loss. He was always in the backfield. Every time I looked, I saw number 90 in the backfield, messing around with the quarterback, stopping the run. I'm pretty excited to see what this guy's going to do this year. T.J. Logan is one of our draft picks. This guy looked really, really good returning the ball. When he got his first chance to touch the ball, he did an 18-yard return and looked explosive. If someone hadn't tripped him up, he would have kept on moving. And then he got a chance to run the ball a little bit. He was actually the leading rusher in the game for us. So overall, I'm pretty happy with T.J. Logan. I think he's going to be the returner for us. He took a really good first step toward being that full-time returner today. And they actually took him out of the game as the returner when they had him start running the ball. They didn't want to run him into the ground.
So if your fantasy league allows you point returns and you're in really deep leagues, that's a name to watch for sure.
Yep, and that special teams overall, and they looked much, much better than they did last year as far as the coverage and blocking and things like that. So I think Logan's going to get an opportunity to break a few runs this year. So yeah, definitely look at him, and he's also going to end up being a backup running back. If he continues to look as explosive as he did in the end of the game, when they made him the starter, or not the starter, but the featured back at the end of the game, I think he's going to earn himself a position behind Kerwin Williams and probably Chris. So Budda Baker, number 2 draft pick this year, rookie, played very well. Remember, this guy did not get to be in any practices pretty much until just recently because of he was with University of Washington, and they don't allow them to start until they're completely done with all their classes, which he wasn't done until just recently. So he hasn't had the chance to really have a lot of practice, but he still looks really, really good. Very disruptive. He stopped some runs. He had a couple of really nice broken up passes. So I liked what I saw out of Budda Baker. When you get Tyrann Mathieu and Budda Baker in that backfield, in that secondary together, it's going to be very exciting to watch. We're going to see a lot of interceptions from those two guys.
Watch your matchups.
One of the guys
IDP options.
Absolutely. Good to know for IDP. And like we said, these are the kind of guys you want to target in IDP. They play safety or slot receiver, so they're going to get lots of time in the box. They're going to get lots of time over the middle getting those tips and interceptions. So good to know. A guy that I was looking really forward to seeing, Chad Williams. He's kind of absent from the first half of the game. Didn't really do too much. Then finally kind of appeared. Made a nice grab and run. Shook off the tackler and then took the ball another 10 yards or so. So played really well. And then the very next play, he crossed the entire formation, made a really nice block. Looked a lot like Larry Fitzgerald to me, to be honest with you. So, I mean, he's still got a long way to go, but it was nice to see that from him. So, he's got some upside on him. 220-pound kid, 6'2". So, going to see some nice things from him. A guy that's a personal favorite of mine, Yafani Moma. He's the tight end for the Cardinals. He got, what's that, former Eagle?
Yeah, former Eagle.
That's right. He was a receiver for the Eagles, and then when he moved over to Arizona, he became a tight end. Big, massive dude, really good feet, really runs routes very well. I mean, he was a receiver, so you would expect that. He looked explosive and really, really comfortable with that offense. He actually had 3 grabs for over 48 yards in the first half, and then kind of disappeared in the second half, and I think they took him out of the game. But him and Blaine Gabbert looked like they were on the same page. So that is going to be a thing throughout preseason. Keep your eye on Yafani Moma. He might be moving up the depth chart a bit. Also, just a side note here, Gabbert loves his tight ends. I mean, he threw to Moma. Yes. He also threw to Troy Nicholas. So, that was interesting to see from a Cardinals team, all that tight end play. You know, and I know CJ and I have argued about this in the past.
Well, we always talk about how you shouldn't draft your, tight ends from Arizona. They're not usually featured in the offense. But Blaine Gabbert, he made some really nice throws to the tight ends. So Carson Palmer goes down. Something to think about.
Troy Nicholas.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it was nice to see Troy Nicholas get involved. That's a second-round pick who hasn't done much for us because he's been injured so much. But when he caught that ball, he looked pretty spry. I mean, it took 3 dudes to bring him down. So that was nice to see. Almost done, I promise. Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams, our number 3 draft pick from last year. Remember, this guy played running back throughout his entire college career. He barely touched the ball as a corner, and then we drafted him as a corner. So he's got a very, very steep learning curve. He had a rough game, multiple penalties. He'd made a really good play, a really good breakup at one point, and then the very next play he gave up a long pass. That was tough. Later on, he atoned for it. He did have the lone interception in the game. He intercepted Kellen Moore in the end zone. So that was nice to see. He got his head around. And that was my big argument with this guy. Get your head around. He never turns his head. He finally turned his head around. Look at that. Look what happens when you get your head around. Brandon, nice interception. So I think he's going to be a work in progress going forward. Probably be playing special teams, little bit of corner, but overall, he's got some work to do. I mentioned Trevor Knight already. He was underwhelming. Lots of really bad passes. Held the ball too long. It just looked really inconsistent to me. I like Kerwin Williams. I've always liked Kerwin Williams. He looks really nice, explosive, scored a touchdown, all good things. Andre Ellington. Andre Ellington looked really hesitant and indecisive to me. Every time he got the ball, he was trying to juke everybody out. He would cut and cut again and cut again, and I'm like, make one cut and commit to it, man. You got
nervous, man.
Yeah, he's nervous.
Doesn't get to touch the ball a lot, so you forget how to ride that bike.
One of many reasons he's not the starter anymore.
That's exactly right. Yeah, well, that and the injuries,
Yep.
So I definitely, throughout the rest of the preseason, if he wants a job, he's going to need to bring down the jitters and start playing, because he looked like he was trying to do way too much. Speaking of our running backs, I'm on a running back kick here. Elijah Penny looked really underwhelming. I was shocked. He's a big stud, and you could say he was looking for contact, but he didn't do much. I think he had 8 rushes for about 18 yards. And that's not good by any stretch of the imagination. So, again, he needs to do a little bit more if he wants a job. There's a lot of running backs to contend with now on this offense. Moving over to the Dallas Cowboys. Bryce Butler.
How about I get on that? How about
you want to get in on that?
I do that. I mean,
it's the resident NFC East fan of the show.
Yeah. Reluctantly, I want to do it, but it's been like half an hour.
You seem really
with the
excited
Cardinals.
about it. Go ahead, man.
I mean, it's it.
Jason's really excited to see his team play, is what it boils down to.
Yes. All right.
I understand.
All right. So listen, Cowboys, they won the game, man. Look, they the defense was very questionable, but they came to it towards the end of the game and got back in it. But the offense was really surprising to me. I mean, I'm just looking at Kellen Moore, and every time I see him on the sideline, and you got Dak and Zeke over there, I can just see him just scheming, just like, dude, if I didn't get hurt, this would be my team. If I didn't get hurt. You know what I mean? Because he was really good. I mean, he was 12 for 17, 182 yards and a touchdown. He does have that one pick, like Jason said. But I like the deep balls that he threw. He very good in the huddle. He did handle the team very well. I like the Cowboys running game. They had 127 yards total. They did good. A couple guys did some break off from some good runs. And then Bryce Butler, man, he had 2 big receptions, 78 yards. He was, they took him and Kellen Moore, they took their shots and they took advantage of the Cardinals secondary and they looked really good. And like you said, Griffin, Cowboys end up winning the game. So you kind of saw what was going on. Once again, this is just the first game of the preseason Hall of Fame game. We just got some football, but it was nice to see, even though the offenses were vanilla, that you got to see the backup players play and just see a glance of the potential that they have, especially with the Cowboys running game with the pending suspension for Zeke.
So many penalties, though, in that game. It was getting a little
ridiculous. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Every down, there was a penalty or 2.
Rookies got to learn the rules. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Anthony Brown, starting corner for Dallas, went down with a hamstring injury. He was one of the only starters in the game. That's why you don't put starters in that game.
That's true.
It's like the one guy they started, and he's the only guy that got injured.
Yep. A single tear is coming down my face right now.
Hopefully it's not a tear, just a little tweak, and he'll be back before the season starts. But we'll see how it all plays out. But yeah,
let's ease up on the whole. It
doesn't look horrible.
Let's get a full tear. How about that?
Okay, easy there, CJ. Man, CJ lets his rivalries just push him to limit
happens.
other people would have, but he does not. So, all right. We're recapping the Hall of Fame game. You know, we may have gone a little bit long-winded there, but we're just excited football's back. So with that, let's go to move into our top headlines from around the league. We'll start with some quarterback news, and man, there's so much news. I know you regret nothing. So much news to get to today. Starting with Miami Dolphins quarterback Ryan Tannehill went down with a non-contact knee injury. Now, the original thoughts were that it was an ACL on the same knee as the ACL and MCL that he injured last season, which knocked him out the last couple of weeks. There were updates from NFL Network's Aditi Kipkumbalwa. I know the name. I can always mess it up. She indicated that that he avoided any structural damage, and he was spotted walking without a limp afterwards back to the facility. However, just before we started recording this, so we haven't had a chance to really vet this, ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that the Miami Dolphins are now, quote, fear that Ryan Tannehill will require season-ending knee surgery on his ACL, but they're yet to make a final decision. So, holy crap, crazy curveball. You know, non-contact injury. Yep. If Ryan Tannehill goes down, what does this do to your guys' confidence for the entire Miami Dolphins offense? I mean, the only thing that I can say with certainty based on him going down last year is that there was a massive uptick in volume to Jay Ajayi.
Yeah, well, Jay Ajayi just went down with an injury, too, and we'll talk about that.
True.
But I mean, hey, given the reports we've been hearing out of Miami, they got the best player at their position in every single position, so they should be fine, right?
Right, you'd think so. But what about the backups?
Yeah, I mean, what's the kid, Matt Moore, that was the backup for them last year while they were in that playoff run. I mean, that's something. We seen reports talking about maybe Colin Kaepernick being there, but I mean, I kind of feel like that's still a little late for him to try to get in there and get the playbook down and get chemistry with the players. I mean, I think the only person in this offense that you can still be able to trust is Jay Ajayi, just because they're going to have to run the ball and take the pressure off whoever the quarterback's going to be.
Yeah, I believe Matt Moore's still there, isn't he?
Yeah, he should be.
I believe he's the backup. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so it'll be interesting to watch for sure.
And a lot of work.
He will. We'll obviously report more news. If you guys want updates throughout the weekend, follow us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. When we know more, you'll know more. Let's move on. Indianapolis head coach, general manager Chris Ballard insisted in a recent interview that Andrew Luck will be activated. Thank you. Will be activated off the PUP before week 1. Of course, dealing with a shoulder injury. Good news, you have to assume. I mean, we're all kind of expecting this. There were some recent rumors saying that he could miss the first 6 weeks going on the short-term IR or staying on the PUP throughout the beginning of the year. But this is a vote of confidence, is it not? Or you guys think this is coach speak?
I think it's bull crap. I think the man's going to be out for he's going to be out for longer than that, man. Come on. Stop it.
You're notoriously the least high on Andrew Luck in the show. Jason, what are your thoughts?
I mean, this is just proving.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to hear more. I mean, this is a GM. Usually the GMs are a little bit less bombastic with their comments. They're a little more realistic than the coaches, in my opinion. I think the coaches always do the coach speak. The GMs a lot of times will be a little bit more realistic with what they're talking about. But I don't know. I mean, it's really going to depend on Andrew Luck, how he feels, and all that kind of stuff. I have to hear more. I need to see more. If he can start throwing the ball more, and we start hearing good things coming out of camp, then maybe. But it's a little concerning, I mean,
it should be a lot concerning.
He'll be ready for week 1. Who knows? I don't have a clue.
Yeah, well, I mean, time will tell. And like I said, I'm not blind to this. I'm the highest on the show of him. But if we get into after the week 3 preseason game, he's still not activated. No signs it's going to happen. Yeah, he's going to plummet down my rankings. But as of right now, I still have faith. There's plenty of time left. There's still a pretty solid month. Let's move on. The Cleveland Plain Dealer believes that second-round rookie quarterback Deshaun Kaiser, quote, won the first week of training camp, end quote, and has, quote, moved closer to being named the starter for the preseason opener, end quote. Now, this falls in line with a lot of other rumors we have been hearing around the team, but by most accounts, it's still kind of up in the air. What are you guys' thoughts here?
The best man win. I mean, there's still 2 young quarterbacks. I mean, may the best man win. I don't have that much to say about Cleveland. I mean, I'll
say this. I found another report from Nate Ulrich over at the Akron Beacon, who said Hugh Jackson just made the statement on Thursday that Brock Osweiler is still in the running to be the starting quarterback, saying that he is a, quote, legitimate candidate to start, end quote, to start, and he would be, quote, comfortable, end quote, going with him. So this is the thing. We don't know. And these are not the team. These are papers saying, oh, yeah, DeShone Kizer won the first. You don't win camp. It's like, how did he win camp exactly?
It's true.
So we'll see what happens. They'll go with the best possible guy. I wouldn't be surprised if it was DeShone Kizer. I would be a tad surprised if it was Brock Osweiler.
Well, I mean, it by all accounts, like I said, it's all up in the air. You've got a four-way battle: Josh McCown, DeShone Kizer, Brock Osweiler, Cody Kessler. So, we'll see a good look at all of them when they have their first preseason game. But I mean, I don't expect any decisions to have been made as of August 4th. So I don't think any one of those guys are standing out talent-wise at the moment and experience in different points of their career. So, we'll know more, they'll know more, and we'll have an answer sooner or later. So let's move on. ESPN's Buffalo Bills reporter Mike Rodak reports that Tyrod Taylor's first 5 days of camp have, quote, left something to be desired, end quote. So, guys, what are your thoughts about just kind of, there's been a pretty consistent stream of negative news coming out of Buffalo, and this is just one more on top. What are your guys' thoughts here?
They're like the anti-Miami. It's like every time you hear something from Buffalo, they're like, oh, it's horrible.
That's true.
Bad.
It's tough. I'm trying to figure out if he's having trouble, picking up the playbook, or, is he just not comfortable in the offense? You would think, all the smart coaches, you go from Belichick on down, they adjust the playbook to fit and get the best out of their players, So I'm thinking that whoever the offensive coordinator there is, that they would adjust that for Tyrod Taylor's strengths. I mean, you cannot say the dude cannot play football. You look at his last 3 or 4 years, the dude can play football. Now, can he be able to maximize your scheme? That might be a different story. But as long as he's there and you still got him there for 2 years, I mean, why wouldn't you adjust the playbook to fit his strengths instead of forcing him to be like basically this is the same situation that was going on with Peyton Manning his last year with Denver.
Just thinking that.
You know what I mean? So you gotta be able to maximize the strength of your players, and if you don't do that, I think you're just being a detriment to your organization.
Well, this is something that Jason and I talked about on one of the Patreon shows. We were talking about the head coach changes and their impacts. It's a whole new coaching regime in there, and they want to make their mark. They want to instill their stuff, and, I mean, it's a lot of first-time coaches mixed in with veterans as well. So, I mean, maybe it's not their style. Maybe they don't feel comfortable doing that. Maybe it's the weapons. Maybe it is Tyrod just having a hard time with this new offense. It's really hard to say at this point, but there's been a surprising amount of negative news coming out of Buffalo. And like I said, this is just the next one down the line. Jason, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I completely agree with CJ. It comes to this. This is the first week of camp with a new situation there in Buffalo, and they can't expect Tyrod Taylor, who's been playing a certain way, to completely adapt to a completely new system right off the bat. So of course there's going to be something to be desired. Of course they're going to miss connections. Of course it's going to look a little odd and a little weird. Tyrod Taylor is a good quarterback. The problem is Buffalo has never really believed in him. They've never saw him as their future. So that's part of the issue. The other part of the issue is you got a new system, and this reporter just needs to chill out and wait and see how Tyrod Taylor can. Maybe Tyrod Taylor picks up the system. Maybe they adapt a few things and adjust that, because the coach is there learning too. And just like CJ said, you got different cogs and different machines you need to adapt your style to. You can't expect to take a Ferrari and go off-roading with it, So you have to adapt your system to see how it's going to work for you.
I'm sure there's someone out there that's tried that, just saying.
I'm sure. They're probably in a hospital bed somewhere.
Yeah, all right. Well, no, I agree with everything you guys have said, so, time will tell. As per usual, let's move on. Last bit of quarterback news. Chicago Bears quarterback Mike Glennon and, this is reported, wide receiver Cameron Meredith have been showing great rapport already. So this was kind of one of those I would certainly hope so moments. I mean, you're proclaimed starting quarterback throughout the season, as we've been hearing, and you're at this moment number one wide receiver. You hope they're getting good reps in. So, I mean, that's good confidence for fantasy if you're in deeper leagues, but you're probably not drafting Mike Glennon in standard leagues, and Cameron Meredith is generally going pretty late, double-digit rounds, that kind of range. So, I
wonder if this is a trope, because the reporters saw them walking off the field together talking, that they said that that's a good rapport.
I heard they had dinner.
I
Heard they went to the snack machine together. Ah, they're best friends.
They shared a Snickers.
Wow.
It's satisfied.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want to see them on the field. I don't want to hear about all their rapport in camp because it is always the coach speak, best shape of their lives type of situation. So let's just wait and see.
Yep. Cameron Meredith, as we mentioned, he is going as the 10th pick in the 9th round, as the 43rd wide receiver off the board. So, I mean, yeah.
Solid receiver, though. He should show some good
he
promise.
He totally is. I agree completely.
I'll put it to you this way. He's going around players like, and I would take him probably behind some of these guys, like John Brown, Tyrell Williams, Randall Cobb, Devontae Parker. Guys he's going ahead of, and I think also appropriate, players like Marvin Jones, Corey Coleman, Taylor Gabriel, Kenny Britt, things of that nature. So,
Yep.
Things to watch. Maybe if you like him, you pull the trigger. But I don't know. That range seems right to me. Let's move on to some running back news, where the Dallas Cowboys Executive Vice President Stephen Jones expects for the league to rule on Ezekiel Elliott's case within the next 2 weeks. Holy crap, why are they pushing this to the limit? It's like the league hates fantasy football, and they're making this big string of advertisements trying to push everyone to go back to NFL.com because their mobile app especially. I know we use NFL.com. I know the mobile app's driving people away.
Mm-hmm.
The website's not the most responsive thing in the world. They don't have all the customization that a lot of the other websites have, and now they're taking our NFL drafts to the last possible second. We just want to know. I mean, honestly, what good are you doing by waiting? I mean, I know in the bottom, what I call it boils down to, they don't really care about us or fantasy football. But come on, you got millions of people playing this game, and this is directly affecting every single one of those leagues. What are your guys' thoughts on this situation?
Listen, as long as Jerry Jones' money's still coming in, this case is probably going to just keep pushing back and back and back.
Well, I've heard that, he could, and obviously he can appeal the ruling, which could push it back to like halfway into the year. Maybe then, so you're drafting Ezekiel Elliott and maybe he gets suspended late in the season in your playoff run. I mean, at what point do you even if he gets suspended, and it depends on the length of the suspension, of course, do you start moving him down draft boards? It's just this crazy wild card, and we have no answers, and we're not going to have any answers anytime soon. Now, NBC's Michelle Tafoya, she reported that Ezekiel Elliott had a late June hearing with the commissioner, Roger Goodell. So, I mean, maybe the team has some light as to which way it's going. I mean, we've seen them make moves to shore up the backfield, so maybe we should be leaning suspension. Who really knows? I don't know. You guys have any other thoughts here?
Nope.
You mentioned that Tafoya, and during the game, the Hall of Fame game, she also mentioned that Elliott could appeal, or the Cowboys rather could appeal the suspension, which means, like you said, he would probably play. So I don't know. I agree with you. I wish they would just get to it, but I mean, it's an investigation. They don't want to rush anything because if they do, they could get it wrong, and that is the worst possible thing for Goodell to do.
No, I mean, hey, it seems like there's a track record of a lot of these things. And it sucks because it's on the heels of all this news coming out that head coach Jason Garrett and quarterback Dak Prescott, they both expressed interest in getting Ezekiel Elliott more involved in the passing game this season, which, of course, was really the big differentiating factor between his production and the pace of Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson last year. So, I mean, it's frustrating because if he obviously he had a ton of touches. He gets more involved in the passing game. We're talking about huge production here, but we will see. All right, I guess with that, let's go ahead and move on to our next bit of news, where Tennessee Titans running back DeMarco Murray, he is dealing with a hamstring injury. Now, head coach Mike Mularkey insists that this is not a, quote, serious injury, and he says, quote, we typically wait 3 days for during camp for an injury. So, I mean, we don't know the severity. We're not going to find out probably in the immediate future, but, I mean, soft tissue injuries, they linger, and this is something that DeMarco Murray had quite a few of early in his career. What are your guys' thoughts here?
Yeah, this is tough. He has a track record of having these hamstring injuries, and they linger a lot. So, I mean, granted, this is still early, so, hopefully he can be able to heal up. He's still got, 4 weeks before the season starts. So, this is I guess you can get a positive out of this.
That's true. Jason, your thoughts?
No, this could possibly cost him the starting position. I mean, depending on how.
Oh, we will.
Yeah, nice. Depending on how they do, going forward in preseason, they'll probably sit Murray regardless of how he feels. I would, So we'll see. It's a wait and see situation.
I agree. So with that, let's go ahead and move on. The Los Angeles Rams, I can make sure I get it right.
Good job.
Yeah, Los Angeles Rams head coach Sean McVay raved about Todd Gurley as a pass catcher and expressed a desire to get him more pass catching opportunities this season. I mean, this is exciting news. Todd Gurley, he's been a pretty consistent north-south runner, but, a guy that they have not used very heavily in their passing game. What are your guys' thoughts here?
I see Sean McVay sending me that tweet with the emoji with the wink emoji. That's what he's doing right there. It's like, hey, Todd Gurley, involved in the passing game. Hey, get him back up in your draft boards. I see you, Sean McVay.
Wow.
We talked about McVay being much more dynamic in the offensive scheme, and I completely agree. Todd Gurley should be used more as a pass catcher, and that is the way of the future. I mean, you look at David Johnson, you look at Le'Veon Bell. Now the other top running backs in the league, Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott, they're saying the same thing. We want to get this guy passes. We want to get them out in the flat, get them the ball, and let them do something. So I completely agree. I think this would be great, and it could be a nice little blanket opportunity for Goff to get rid of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. Guy that needs more pass catching, and if he's got the skill set, that'll definitely help him not being hit in the backfield. Let's move on. Miami Dolphins running back Jay Ajayi, who we mentioned on Tuesday's show, got knocked out of practice with a concussion. He has been given about a 1-week timetable to return, so that's good news there. Shouldn't be a very long-term concussion. He should be back as early as next week. So I'm not making fantasy adjustments, so that's good. ESPN, or do you guys have anything you want to add? Good to go?
Nope.
All right. ESPN Packers reporter Rob Demovsky? Whatever. Demovsky? Sure it is. He said that for the second straight day, that fourth-round rookie running back Jamal Williams appears to be, quote, pushing Ty Montgomery for starting duties. So this is just even more news, backing up the argument that the three of us have had really since pretty early into the new league year, ever since the draft especially. What are you guys' thoughts here?
Yay.
Yeah, this is what I expected. And I expect to see Jamal Williams as that first down back and Ty Montgomery as the change of pace guy.
That's good. It's good information like this. Like we said when we did that, we're going to push it out to you later. But, I mean, if you just go ahead and sign up to our Patreon account, you can get that mock draft we did. There you go, winking a gun. But we talked about that, man. You might have to double down in this Green Bay running game if you want a piece of it.
I agree. It's exciting because, like we've said extensively, he's very much the Eddie Lacy build, and we've seen how good Eddie Lacy could be in that offense in the past when he was healthy and consistent and obviously in game shape. So, Jamal Williams, he's a guy you can get in double-digit rounds, late-round flyer who could be a great turnaround. I'm hoping that we don't end up pushing him so far up in drafts we can't get him because we're all pretty high on him. So with that, I guess,
you keep forcing us to talk about this, dude. That's exactly what's going to happen.
It's news. We got to talk about the news. We can't leave the listeners.
Hey, look, the news doesn't even really talk about real news. Why do we have to?
Wow. All right. So with that, let's move on. The Cincinnati Bengals second-round rookie running back Joe Mixon reportedly got his left foot looked at on the sideline during camp after he gingerly left during team drills. He did not return. So guys, we haven't really got any updates on this injury yet. Are you concerned about the upside of Joe Mixon? Because news breaking throughout the week has kind of been, I've been cooling on him a little bit for reasons I'll get into. What are you guys' thoughts here?
I don't like this at all. This is terrible.
Yeah, no, I don't like it either. Foot injuries are always an issue for running backs. I mean, not good. Makes me scared.
Yes, very, very terrified about this.
Fair enough. Well, the big note here is that Giovanni Bernard, he has been practicing, and the assumption that he was going to miss the first couple weeks. So with him there taking the pass catching downs, and most likely because very good in that role, and then Jeremy Hill being one of the best red zone backs in the league, That's not leaving a lot left for Joe Mixon, who's going to be, as we've talked about extensively, a rookie, which Marvin Lewis is not big on working rookies in their first year. He likes to have them sit and earn their opportunities. So even if he's in there between the 20s, you know, I don't know how much volume is going to be there for Joe Mixon, who could easily be one of the most talented backs in the league. Are you guys being scared off at all of Joe Mixon? Are you guys? I mean, I haven't adjusted him in my rankings at all, but it's a situation I'm paying very close attention to. You guys, are you being swayed anyway at this point, or are you kind of standing firm?
My hand is hovering over my mouse. You know, I'm very, very concerned, and I'm looking at the number I got on his name, and hoping that I don't have to move him down. But yeah, I am watching it because, like you said, Giovanni Bernard is a very good running back, and he's up and running and good to go. As long as Joe Mixon stays healthy, I still think he's going to supplant him and become the starter. But I'm concerned. I don't like foot injuries.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of foot injuries. I mean, but I've talked about this extensively. I think he's a better back than both of them. I mean, Giovanni Bernard is very talented, but these last couple of years, Jeremy Hill has been very underwhelming. So I'm not concerned at the least that he would Joe Mixon's potential to get in this offense will be hampered because of Jeremy Hill. Not at all.
There's just a lot of contributing factors which can really, sway this very quickly. So it's a situation to watch, and, you could really make an argument either way. It's just history is not on his side, and the now very muddled backfield is not helpful either. So with that, let's move on.
Nope.
The Detroit Lions running back coach David Walker confirms that Amir Abdullah will be the Lions' featured back this season. So, this is news we've heard before. There's been a lot of speculation. It's obviously a very crowded backfield. There's, talks about how they want to change the approach of the offense as a whole. They've always been a very pass-heavy offense to begin with. Amir Abdullah has had injury problems, causing all these side remarks that maybe they'll cap his role in the offense, his touches. But a vote of confidence for Amir Abdullah, a guy that, the fantasy industry, especially among analysts, are pretty high on. Is this exciting news for you guys, as it should be obviously initially interpreted as?
I mean, this is good. This is a guy that, once again, we talked about him before. If he can stay healthy, he can be very dynamic in this offense. I think he's an upgrade to Theo Riddick and the other backs that he have there. I mean, he's very explosive and coming off the ball, yards off the catch. All this stuff is good. It's just health. Can he stay healthy? Can he be able to stay healthy and stay on the field to be able to get you points? And if he does, then this is a good, number 2 or even flex-worthy running back you should better put in your lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this guy has an opportunity to be a breakout player this year because he hasn't had the opportunity yet. I mean, he's been injured a lot, and I've mentioned before that I just want to hear something good about Amir Abdullah. That's all I want. I just want to hear something good. And finally, I hear something good. So that makes me happy. I will probably push him up my board a couple of spots, and I wait to hear more, and I wait to see preseason. But I really do think with this guy's upside, he could be a breakout candidate. He could actually be a top 10, maybe even a top 5 running back this year.
I hear you over there, Jason. Trying to listen to some Motown earlier, huh? Tell you something good?
A little bit.
Wow.
A little bit.
Tell
me something good.
There you go.
Sorry.
Okay. So, now, this is something we've...
Sing it, Griffin. Get the soul in your heart, man. Do it.
No, Griffin, you don't sing.
Oh, that's fine. I won't. We talked about this recently. I don't remember which show it was on, but, their leading rusher last year was 92 rushing attempts. So this is a team that needs direction.
Tuesday,
That was Tuesday? Okay. Well, we've done the Patreon since then, too. I don't know. I get them mixed up sometimes. But, they had 92 rushing attempts, was their leading rusher in Theo Riddick. Theo Riddick has been notoriously much more of a pass-catching guy. They have Zach Zenner there that we like. Dwayne Washington is supposedly a very good red zone back. They've got a very crowded backfield, but Amir Abdullah, he has been an incredibly highly scouted, highly rated talent. And, a lot of people were saying, besides the injuries, he was drafted to a team that really needed his talents, but probably weren't going to use him effectively. So, hearing this news that they are going to be trying to work him into the offense, featuring him, making him the lead back, trying to get him over 200 touches, all of this stuff, if he can stay healthy, this is a guy who everyone is sleeping on because he has not delivered in his first 2 years. But now in his third season, if he can stay healthy, you could be staring at gold at a player that you can get much later in your draft. I mean, if you want to go the zero RB, which we do not recommend, you could snatch this guy up, in the middle rounds, and you could have yourself a really nice sleeper there. So a player to watch for sure, obviously health pending. Let's move on. Minnesota Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer said that second-round rookie running back Dalvin Cook has impressed his teammates during camp. So this is just even more good news coming out of a team where Dalvin Cook has been apparently at all the meetings, doing well, picking up the offense, and Latavius Murray still on the physically unable to perform list. So Dalvin Cook cementing his role potentially as the starter there. And we've talked about the upgrades to the offensive line being healthy and some moves that they've made. Sam Bradford having another year there. The passing game developing, so maybe they'll back off the line a little bit, let the running game open up some more. Dalvin Cook could be a sneaky pick for you guys as well, though obviously taken as a high-tiered rookie, he's kind of moved up draft boards. What are your guys' thoughts on this news?
I love it.
Short answer.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah, love it.
I have no faith in Latavius Murray, and I think that he is a better back. And the fact that Latavius Murray went down with an injury is a very good thing for him. I think that he'll end up being the starter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hard to argue those points there. But this is a guy who is moving up draft boards. I mean, we're talking back. He does deserve it, but he went from being a nice sleeper, like when we were doing mock draft sleepers, late round value episodes back in June when he was going in the 7th round. He's now going all the way up in the back of the 4th round as the 10th pick in the 4th. So he's losing his sleeper appeal. I think people are kind of catching on, but I mean, this is still a guy that, could be a nice sneaky pickup. So, just something to watch. Let's move on. Next bit of news. The Washington Post reports that it is clear that Rob Kelly will be the Redskins' number 1 running back.
Stupid Redskins.
Okay, so what CJ is alluding to, of course, is that we're all pretty high on Samaje Perine. We all believe that Samaje Perine will be the starter at some point during the season, but I also hear this news, and as I've been saying a lot lately, I find myself, as soon as I read something, saying, duh. I mean, I think we've even talked about this before on a recent episode. Of course Rob Kelly's going to be the starter. Preseason hasn't even started yet. They've just been in camp. They're not going to just give the role away from a guy who was pretty decent for them last year. He's going to have to earn it. So hearing this news, I put it on here just because it is stuff to think about. So if you're thinking, I'm going to go draft Samaje Perine high, make sure I get him, well, maybe pump the brakes. Maybe it's worth getting him late because we don't know when this transition is going to happen. What are your guys' thoughts here?
Nothing is clear before the first week of preseason, and it's clear. No, it's not. It's not clear. They have not played a game yet. You have no idea, Now, I like Rob Kelly. I could see him being the starter, especially to start the season. But as you already said, and we've mentioned many times, Samaje Perine will probably be the starter by the end of the year. But to start with, it wouldn't surprise me for Rob Kelly to start.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm perfectly fine picking up Samaje late in drafts. So, hey, whatever. The Redskins want to pull this foolishness, by all means. It's just better for me.
Well, this will definitely push him down. Just FYI, Rob Kelly is going at the back of the 8th as the 10th pick in the 8th round. So, I mean, for instance, if you're going to draft like a Doug Martin, and he's going to miss the first couple weeks, but we all expect that Rob Kelly will be the starter for at least the first couple weeks, maybe there's a late-round person to pick up. It's just funny to look at because the fantasy community clearly is seeing through this because Rob Kelly going as the 10th pick in the 8th, as I just mentioned, Samaje Perine going as the 8th pick in the 7th round. So, a little bit of a gap there, a little bit over a full round. So, if you want to roll the dice and you want to invest in a guy who at this point we know is not going to be the starter week 1, but that could easily change. If you're drafting now, which you shouldn't be, that's up to you. Roll the dice. The next bit of running back news: the New York Jets running back Matt Forte has been sidelined with a hamstring injury. Wow. Issue. I wanted to say injury, and I was reading issue at the same time, and it just came out really weird. Shut up! Don't judge me. This is kind of par for the course. Matt Forte has been dealing with injuries a lot lately. He's always been kind of an injury. I wouldn't say he's necessarily injury prone, but he's always had something that's been hobbling him that he's played through. Cost him a couple games throughout the last couple years. Is this really?
He's older back. He got a lot of tread, lots of tread. I mean, talking about like how your dad normally tells you, like, okay, look, if you put this quarter right here, and this quarter can slide right through, you're good. And it's still snug on, it's good. But when you can be able to put 4 quarters in that tread, that's when you know you need to change those tires. That's what Matt Forte is at. He's old back, man. A lot of tread on them tires.
And we all expect Bilal Powell to be the majority lead rusher there this year. I don't know, Jason, what are your thoughts?
You guys pretty much said it all. I mean, this kind of cements the fact that Bilal Powell will probably be the guy going forward. And if for nothing else, to save Matt Forte's legs, because every time he has a heavy workload, something snaps. Loses a tire.
Has been the case as of late. So things to think about. A guy you're probably not drafting very high anyway, but someone a lot of people are seeing as a really nice sleeper candidate. I don't think the game script's going to be there, even if he could stay healthy. Obviously, in a committee as well. Last bit of running back news. New Orleans Saints running back Mark Ingram stated that he wants to prove that he is a, quote, complete back, end quote. And my initial thought here is, again, what is there to prove? We've seen that you're a good rusher. We've seen that you have good hands. He's been doing a lot of pass-catching stuff since training camp started. But it boils down to you have Kareem Hunt, you have Adrian Peterson in town, and
Kareem
you have...
Hunt.
Oh, not Kareem Hunt, sorry.
Kareem Hunt. What's Kareem Hunt
Alvin
doing?
Kamara?
Alvin Kamara, I know.
Alvin Kamara.
There we go.
Thank you for catching me. Wrong rookie running back. Yeah, Alvin Kamara. They both have a K in there. I don't know. I got it mixed up. Alvin Kamara and Adrian Peterson in there. And head coach in Sean Payton, who... for some reason, inexplicably, seems to hate you. So, I mean, you can want to prove it all you want, but unless there's injuries and forcing you to have more opportunity in the offense, it's going to be probably a pretty muddled committee. We all like Mark Ingram here. We all think he'd be probably pretty good on another team, but in New Orleans, for whatever reason, though his averages were very good, even last year, not getting a heavy workload. What are your guys' thoughts?
He needs to go, man. He needs to get out of New Orleans and go another place and be the featured back. He would be awesome. It's sad that he even has to say this. Like you said, he's already proven he's a good back. He gets numbers on a team that doesn't even use him. So it's like he needs to go to a team that needs a featured back and that he could be the man.
Well, Jason, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about he needs to prove that he's a complete back so he can audition for another team that would willing to trade for him to get him out of New Orleans. Because
but he's not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, you never know. Look, running backs are going down. We see this list of injuries. People might be desperate and they want to go ahead and send something this way. I could see a team sending a 5th or 6th round pick to go get him. You know what I mean? Get something for him.
Well,
he's like the Cinderella. He's like Cinderella. He's being treated like Cinderella with New Orleans. You know what I mean? They just put him in the freaking rags and having him washing all this stuff while they're having a good time at the ball, man. Like, what's going on?
Well, I mean, like we talked about,
room, Mark.
as we talked about a lot in past episodes, he's going to be gone either this year or next year because they have a potential out built into his contract after this season. They can cut him where they will save a lot of cap space. Or if they don't, next year's the final year of his contract, and he'll be 29 out there looking for his next contract. So, I mean, not over the hill as of yet. I mean, there's good potential, but I see no way that he stays.
Quick question. Just right off the top of your head, where's he go?
Next year or in 2 years depends widely on need. I have no idea. I mean, my guess, honestly, he'd go somewhere in the division to stick it to the team the way they've been treating him. But, who knows?
That's rough.
I don't know. That's a good question. That would require some research.
Might go to the
and some
Panthers.
foresight.
Jonathan Stewart might be out of there. He might just slide over there.
Christian McCaffrey, though,
McCaffrey, 1-2 punch.
Putting him into another committee, which may not be what he wants. I don't know. It's weird. But that's speculation.
You're weird.
We can get to. Thank you. We'll get to that. I'm sure down the line, especially at the end of this year, when we'll see how this all plays out. So let's move on to some wide receiver news.
God, there's so much news. What is happening?
That's why when Jason was rambling on and on and on about the Cardinals, I was like, come on. We are already...
I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm not sorry.
We're already about 50 minutes into the show. We haven't even gotten to the topic
Good God.
yet. I know. All right, so moving on to wide receiver news. The Houston Texans wide receiver Will Fuller will be out for a reported 3 to 4 months after suffering a broken collarbone in practice. And this is upgraded from the original statement of about a 2 to 3 month injury. So, guys, what does this do to the offense to you guys? Does this scare you guys off of anything?
Not really. I mean, I had Will Fuller on my fantasy team last year. He had a good start. when Brock was still decent before he got exposed and they started crashing down on him, and he was even good on special teams. And the league that I was in, I started getting special team points from him. So I mean, this is tough. I think this is. I mean, if you like Braxton Miller, I think you got to take a good look at him, and of course DeAndre Hopkins, and then Jalen Strong. A couple of those names right there that I think their stock has to go up with while he's out.
Yep. Jason, your thoughts?
It's concerning. I mean, he was a nice integral cog for them. I mean, for me though, everything in Houston right now just hinges on what's going to happen with that quarterback position. I mean, if they're going to have a 6-foot stack of ham throwing the ball down the field, it doesn't matter who's on their team. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was one of the best in the league in 2015, and he did nothing last year. So. It's bad because they lose a cog, but really it may not be that bad because they don't really have much of a quarterback situation right now anyway.
I mean, for me, this is honestly probably an upgrade to DeAndre Hopkins because, what made DeAndre Hopkins so freaking good for the first half of 2015 was volume. He's a volume play wide receiver. And he could be greatly assisted by, quality of throw, but, we talked about this a lot going into the 2016 season where his pace in the first half compared to his pace in the second half were two completely different stories. He was, a super elite wide receiver in the first half where he's getting all the volume. The defense was underwhelming. And then the second half, when the game script was more favorable, the defense was playing better. He finished outside of the wide receiver twos. I think he was on average, without looking it back up, a low waiver wire type production week to week. So, really hot or cold. And we saw that again last year. So to me, a guy who's being very overdrafted even now where he's going as the 13th wide receiver off the board. But with this injury, increase in volume, and hopefully a quarterback that's willing to take a lot of shots at him, this could be great news. Honestly, to me, and this pains me to say, the biggest downgrade here is to Lamar Miller because this, again, Will Fuller was the guy who was taking the top off the defense, pushing the safeties back, spreading out the defense, and they're going to open up these lanes, hopefully, with obviously help from the rest of the offense, but really help that mechanic work. So now they're going to have an easier time crowding the line a little bit, and it scares me a little bit more for Lamar Miller. I haven't adjusted him in my rankings, but it's something I am consciously debating at the moment. So stuff to look out for. If you were thinking about drafting Will Fuller, don't do it. Let's move on to the New York Giants, where wide receiver Sterling Shepard was carted off the field with a later diagnosed low ankle sprain. He was reportedly writhing in pain. He was in tears. Originally, they assumed this was much worse than it turned out to be. He avoided, of course, the dreaded high ankle sprain, which can last for well over a month, and then you have to get on a boot. It takes a while to work back from. It lingers throughout the season. They're expecting a favorable time frame. He should be back with plenty of time to be ready for the beginning of the season. So good news there. Do you guys have any thoughts that you want to add to this before we move on?
Yeah, I'm just glad that it's not as bad as it was. I mean, because if that was the case, then I would have to move Brandon Marshall up.
I know. You would have hated that. Oh, jeez.
So, whew. There you go.
Jeez. The most biased analyst I've ever seen.
I'm not biased. I'm just looking at the facts. I'm just looking at facts. Once again, if you participate with Patreon, you can hear our argument about that.
That's true. Let's move on to
this isn't good news.
Go ahead. By all means, it isn't good news. What were you going to say?
Oh, Jason, you talked enough. No. You talked 30 minutes before the show. Stop it.
That wasn't 30 minutes.
That was rude.
This isn't good news for Sterling Shepard, who was already being pushed down boards because of the fact that he's got to share time with those two monsters. So that worries me a little bit. What's that?
I was saying one monster. It's easy there.
No, Brandon Marshall and Odell Beckham Jr. Man.
Yeah, two of them.
It's Odell.
No. Shut up, CJ. Keep moving, Jason.
No, that's it. That's all I got to say.
It's all true. This guy was a red zone target, and he made most of his production with touchdowns last year. That was his big fantasy contribution, and there was all these reports saying that there was no way he was going to repeat those numbers. So, yeah, he was being pushed down a lot of boards. Yeah. And probably this won't help that. Just saying. So let's move on. To Philadelphia, where the Eagles wide receiver Alshon Jeffrey has missed his third straight practice with a shoulder injury. So a guy
CJ,
who I remember
what is
saying
going on over there?
extensively for years was injury prone, which is why I didn't want my team to get him, is now showing more of the same, missing time. So I'll throw this to CJ as the resident Eagles fan. CJ, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I'm not that concerned. I mean, it's still early. I mean, I'm not. It's not like I'm the Ravens over here. I got like 6 players on IR already. So I'm not concerned about this.
That was unnecessary.
Well, I'm just saying, Jason's the one who want to talk trash. I'm just like, wait, hold on, man.
I wasn't talking trash. I'm
Yes,
asking
you
you
were.
what's going on, man.
Hey, what's going on is it's still early. I mean, this is a little shoulder. The man's not going to have to play until like 4 weeks. So what's the deal? I'm not understanding.
I'm not playing all the way he's going.
Yeah, this is pretty par for the course for Alshon Jeffrey over the last couple of years. So we'll see. Something to monitor. A guy who's going, late in the high portion of the draft. So we'll see. I don't have it in front of me.
You know what? I gotta say this.
Go for it.
I like Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey. In fact, that he's on your team, and the fact that he's a nice weapon for that young Carson Wentz, I want to see him. But he's healthy, dude. The guy is brittle. I'm just tired of hearing about his injury.
Man,
He's going
This is the first time you heard about an injury since OTAs. What are you talking about?
Ooh, so this
And
season.
before then, when was the last time he was injured?
Last season. Then the season before that.
All last
and then the season before that. But yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I want to see him. I'm hoping you're right. I'm hoping this is just a little thing. It goes away, no problem, and he plays the season because I definitely want to see this guy and Carson Wentz hook up because I think they could be a great team.
I know, right?
Alshon Jeffrey currently has a reported, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different injuries in his short career that required him to miss time.
Wow.
So,
almost as much as IRs you guys have for Baltimore, right?
unnecessary. And no,
That's
it's
almost.
not. It's getting there. It's not there yet.
It's getting there. It's getting up there.
But again, dang, so many shots fired. Alshon Jeffrey is currently going as the 17th wide receiver off the board as the second pick in the 4th round. So right smack dab in the wide receiver 2s. So roll your dice, gentlemen. Let's move on to the next, and ladies out there. Next bit of news to Minnesota, where the Vikings wide receiver Laquan Treadwell has been running exclusively with the first team offense in 3 wide receiver sets up to this point during training camp. So a forgotten name, a first round pick last year. This is good news. You guys like this?
I mean, I like it. I mean, they invested a high pick on this kid. He was kind of lost in the shuffle last year. It looked like he was not struggling to pick up the playbook, kind of like what Golden Tate was when last year with that Detroit offense. So so this is awesome news. I mean, this is once again, if you're in deep leagues, this is a guy that you can be able to add on. Maybe your third receiver, or flex option, or even a bench worthy player, and just see what happens, man.
Yeah. Deeper league pick, or are you guys taking a late round flyer on him? Because again, I think he's still pretty concretely the third target in that system, as they're saying, running with the 3s, or we're running with the 1s in 3 wide receiver sets.
Waiver wire.
Yeah. Waiver wire. For
what
me,
if you're in like an
he didn't look good last year at all.
18 to 20 team league? Do you do a late round flyer on him?
Wait.
Still waivers. Okay. All right, wait and see, essentially. All right. The Tennessee Titans first-round rookie wide receiver Corey Davis is undergoing an MRI for a hamstring injury.
God, what is happening with Nike now, man? So many injuries.
This is what I talk about this every single year. Camp starts, players aren't in game shape. They're going out there being explosive, making cuts, being athletic. Their bodies aren't conditioned for it. Players get hurt. So many of these are non-contact injuries because their bodies just aren't ready for this type of impact. This is why I preference everything by saying, guys, training camp starting, get ready for a slew of injuries. And it has been exactly that. It's that every single year. Oh, it's so bad.
You're also from Baltimore, so you're just conditioned.
Shut up.
I was waiting. Who was going to say?
Look.
I was biting my tongue the whole time.
Because
Jason.
This
you knew one of us was going to say something.
Is already over for me in Baltimore. Just means that I'll be able to devote that much more time and effort to fantasy football instead of watching my Ravens. Well, I'll watch them still, but investing emotionally. So
I'm sad for you.
Stuff to watch is Corey Davis. Of course, he's been dropping down boards a little bit since the addition of Eric Decker, but still, in serious leagues, is still pretty commonly drafted target. Let's move on to some of that Baltimore Ravens news, shall we? Where Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Brashad Perryman left practice on Tuesday with a hamstring injury, has yet to return. He's dealt with lower body injuries. Shut up. This is not believed to have been serious. They are linking this mostly to muscle tightness. He should return. No concerns as of this time. He's the third wide receiver. I don't want to hear it. So let's move on to some tight end news, where Washington Redskins tight end Jordan Reed has seen a specialist, Dr. Robert Anderson, in North Carolina for his toe injury. So guys, Jordan Reed, already hurt, seeing specialist for a foot injury. Does he move in your rankings to this point? He's still being reported as day-to-day, but of course that can mean anything.
This is tough. It's tough. I mean, the talent is there, but one of the Jason's grievances with this guy is he's always hurt. Always hurt.
It's an accurate statement.
Without fail, he's always hurt. So this is tough. I mean, hopefully he recovers and gets right. But, those toe injuries, they linger too. They take a long time to get right so they can be able to get full explosions. I mean, we've seen him play hurt. I mean, we've seen this dude. I mean, what was it, a tear labrum he had, and he was still out there playing football. So, I mean, he's a grinder. But, you wish that he can get, 100% and stay there for 16 games.
Well, yeah, last year his injury, I'll look up exactly what it was, but yeah, he was basically playing with a separated shoulder out there trying to play. Yeah. I mean, he's got heart, but he's always hurt.
Always.
So again, does this move him up or down obviously not up? Does this move him down your rankings?
He's got to go down. He's got to go down. I mean, if you're not available, you got to go.
Jason?
I don't even want to talk about this. I'm disgusted. I'm so tired of Jordan Reed. I'm sorry, but the guy is awesome when he's healthy, and it's just so frustrating because every year everybody's always so high on this guy. He's the third guy, the second guy on everybody's list, and he's always hurt. And I always say it every year: don't draft this dude. He's gonna get hurt. You're going to have him for like 3 weeks at 100%. And playing through injury, yeah, that's great. He's got heart. That's wonderful. But he's not going to be as good as he could be. When he's playing through injury. So, yeah, I'm not touching him. He's going way down my rank. I'm done with it.
Jason acts like he's like the first kid that sees Freddy Krueger, and he's trying to tell everybody else, like, look, he's real. He's real. You don't want to deal with this guy. That's what he's basically doing.
This is a guy who
I feel like somebody that knows they're in a horror movie and is trying to tell everybody, guys, it's a horror movie. Don't go down the stairs alone. Don't do it.
Yep. Again, I'm trying to get a word in here. He's been in the league for 4 years, has not played a full 16 games. In his 4-year career, he has had 15 serious injuries. So,
good God.
Yeah. I mean, incredible talent. If he's on the field, he should be starting for you. I am not investing a high draft. Shut up. I'm not investing a high draft pick in this guy, but this is a guy who is obviously still going pretty darn high. He's going as the third tight end off the board, as the second pick in the 5th round. Just saying. Last bit of news, and then we're done. Baltimore Ravens tight end Crockett Gilmore is also done for the year after having to have MCL surgery.
This is my shocked face.
Look at this list.
Shocked.
Yep.
God gracious. What is this, a draft board? What is happening here?
Yeah.
That's your whole team.
This is just notable injuries on the offense. I mean, Joe Flacco injured, timetable yet to be determined, expected to be back. Obviously, running back starter Kenneth Dixon on injured reserve. Brashad Perryman, obviously we just talked about, was injured. Tight end Dennis Pitta, starter, injured reserve. Then he was released. Tight end Crockett Gilmore, we just talked about, on injured reserve. Tight end Darren Waller, suspended for the entire year. At least that's not an injury. Hey. Our starting, believed to be starting center, John Urschel, he retired. I mean, he was that genius guy who was in those commercials with J.J. Watt talking about how like Beats headphones works and stuff like that. Crazy smart guy. Shouldn't have been playing football, and a lot of people said it was linked Yeah, he was going to make way more money in his post-football career than he was ever going to make playing football, so he just kind of got out instead of, his brain, he's incredibly smart. He didn't want to risk concussions, is apparently what it's been linked to. And then a guy that we drafted quite recently, guard Nico Saragusa, IR. He tore his ACL, MCL, and PCL.
Well, you know what? He's trying to prove that he is truly a Raven, and he has just proved himself. So there you go.
Just follow the leader, basically.
Follow the leader. If anything worth doing is worth doing right. And let me tell you something. This list just proves something to me. It does not pay to be a tight end in Baltimore.
Just when you think you have a plethora of tight ends, they just fall down like dominoes.
Didn't we talk about that? Didn't we have a conversation about the number of tight ends in Baltimore?
Yeah, we were one of the deepest in the league and excited about it. Now there's one, Benjamin Watson, who's coming back from injury, and Max Williams is coming back from injury as well, both from last year.
That's exciting,
really good guys, but so that was our
Gary
fourth
Barnes
round pick.
is out there.
He is, and we might get him. So he was our fourth round pick this year, and that level of injury, that could, he's a young guy, so maybe not, but that could easily be career ending. Just saying. My Ravens, we have taken a beating. I think the only reason I'm not more upset about it is because I've already ridden off the season to the Patriots. So, with that. Okay, we are already well over not well over, but we are already over an hour, and I would say we could just bump this to next week, but we're going to have this much news again next week, so I say we power through. We're going to move on to our topic of the day, which is our consensus quarterback rankings. Now, if you guys were here, and we did this back in, late April, early May, we did some early rankings. And of which we've had quite a bit of movers, which we will highlight and talk about. But let's go ahead and start right at the beginning, where we have unanimously, uncontestedly, and a guy who I was shocked was not unanimous last year, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback, Green Bay Packers. We all have him as our top option across the board, unanimously number one. Somebody tell me why Aaron Rodgers deserves to be your elite number one starting quarterback in fantasy football.
Now wait, are we going down the early rankings first and then doing our what we've done now, or are we just
no, just the new ones? I just put the old ones up there for reference sake.
Oh, okay. Well, Aaron Rodgers, he's a freaking beast. You see this guy. Consistently does good work for you, even though with his it seems like every year there's like a wall with his receivers or running backs that they just are not that productive, and yet he continues to tell us to relax. Just chill, and he comes out there and they start putting up these nasty points. He puts up 40 points a game. 50 points is nasty. Hail Marys. The dude is just absolutely money at the quarterback position. So it's either him or this other guy we're going to talk about. But I believe, for me personally, he's a number one fantasy option when it comes to the quarterback position. That's why he's my number one.
Jason?
Yeah, there's really no argument to be made against Aaron Rodgers as a number one. Honestly, I don't think I can't think of a single good argument to be made against Aaron Rodgers as the number one guy. He is number one pretty much on every board that I've seen. I've very rarely seen anyone put anybody above him. He is the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
Oh, wow. Bold statement. But, I agree. This is a guy who has been the fantasy quarterback 1 or the fantasy quarterback 2 at the end of the year. Every year he's been a starter except for 2 years, one of which he was injured, and the other year was when basically the sky fell and everything went to hell, and he still finished as a quarterback 1 that year, just not as the number one. It doesn't get any more consistent than Aaron Rodgers, especially as we talk about a lot. Yep. A team that throws in the red zone more than any other team, or as some sites like to reference the 10 zone, where they're throwing within the 10-yard line even, incredibly efficiently. He's had only 2 years as a starter where he didn't have at least a 100 quarterback rating. That's how good he is. Not necessarily like Drew Brees, where I'm going to throw for 5,000 yards every year, but he gets good yardage. He gets a ton of touchdowns. He gets low interception counts. Like you said, one of, if not the best quarterback in the league, and that translates beautifully to fantasy football. So Aaron Rodgers should be the guy that you are drafting first if you're looking at quarterback. Let's move on to the next guy, who is Tom freaking Brady, New England Patriots. Now, both CJ and I have him at 2. Jason, you have him at 3. So, CJ, I'm going to throw this to you. Why should Tom Brady be the number 2 quarterback?
He's Tom freaking Brady. That's why.
That's why.
What else needs to be said? The man has a plethora of weapons like we've never seen before. This dude, I mean, he does less with more. I mean, he's Tom freaking Brady. And he got Belichick as his freaking coach. How many more times I got to say freaking for you to understand Tom Brady is the guaranteed number 2, man? Come on, stop it.
Jason, you being the lowest, you want to give us a con?
A con for Tom Brady? It's not really a con on Tom Brady. It's really just my belief in the number 3 guy being just a better quarterback. So I can't give you a con on Tom Brady. He's a great quarterback. I can't give you one con. The only con I have with Tom Brady is that his deep ball is not what it used to be, and
he deflates footballs.
The Brandon Cooks, right? I knew you were going to get that in there somehow.
I don't know. I wasn't planning on it. It just kind of happened. The spirit took me. I don't know.
He's got a really good deep threat now in Brandon Cooks and a really good all-around receiver in Brandon Cooks now to add to his many weapons. He's got the best tight end in football. He's got like 16 running backs to hand the ball to or throw the ball to or something like that. So he's got weapons. He's got the mind. He's probably the smartest quarterback in the league right now. Again, the only con, a little bit of zip come off that ball a little bit. So I'm expecting to see more intermediate routes and things of that nature. But he is undoubtedly got to be in the conversation for being the GOAT.
I mean, you guys basically said it all. We've done this a couple times talking about this, how if you multiply his production out over a full season, obviously suspended for the first portion of the year last year, he finished as the quarterback 2 ahead of Matt Ryan. So, I mean, he finished there. We're putting him there. My biggest problem with it is that, which is why we don't have him as the number 1, is consistency. He hasn't always been this elite fantasy quarterback, though he's been obviously a great real-life quarterback. They like to run the ball a lot more for touchdowns as opposed to in Green Bay, though they're trying to fix it in Green Bay. And, you got to concretely keep him there because something we've mentioned extensively, they've done nothing but improve this offseason. They won the Super Bowl last year. They've upgraded basically across the board. They have more versatile running backs. They got a new deep threat, talented wide receiver in Brandon Cooks. Rob Gronkowski is back, who wasn't there for the playoffs last year. I mean, Tom Brady, it's really congested, and therefore I think the targets are going to be diluted if you're trying to pick up the individual fantasy pass catchers. But the quarterback throwing them the ball, I mean, he's going to have targets all day. So,
right.
Yeah, Tom Brady is going to be a beast this year, barring injury. I am also, as much as I hate the guy, I respect him, and he is going to very easily finish as a top-tier fantasy quarterback. So taking him as the number 2, I am okay with that as well. With that, let's move on to the next guy on our list, which is Drew Brees. So I have him at 4, CJ at 3, Jason, you're at 2. So Jason, take it away. You're the highest on him.
As I mentioned, my reason for ranking Tom Brady as the number 3 was because Drew Brees is my number 2. 5,000-yard seasons multiple times. No one's ever done it. He's done it 5 times.
Yep.
Come on. I mean, the guy is the best passing quarterback in the NFL. And it makes sense. These 3 in any order being at the top of this list just makes sense. And Drew Brees is going to get his yardage. And then they can talk about, we got Adrian Peterson now. They can talk about, we're going to run the ball more. Bottom line, Drew Brees is going to get his yardage. He's going to throw the ball down the field. He's proven it many times. Best pure passer in the league, in my opinion.
CJ?
Yeah, no disrespect to Drew Brees, because the man is talented. The man has been doing just amazing things, with the system that's around him. I got to tip my hat out to him. The one thing that really concerned to me is his home road splits. I mean, I know that's been talked about extensively, but it's something to be concerned about. I mean, if you draft this dude And if you go high with it, you know what I mean, outside of a two quarterback league, of course you're going to draft high, but I mean, just you got to look at this situation, everything that's going on right there. I mean, if that continues to keep going forward, hopefully that was just an anomaly, that happened last year, but if that continues to go forward going into this year, it's really concerning. And that's why, I mean, I have respect for him. That's why I have him at 3. But that's something that's alarming to me, that those home run splits, man.
Yeah. You guys basically summed it all up. I mean, this guy has been in the league since 2001. He has been amazing. He is the only player in the league to have multiple 5,000-yard passing seasons. High volume guy. Of course, that volume translates to points. I mean, last year alone, he had 5,200 yards. 37 touchdowns, so only a couple behind Aaron Rodgers. The big difference, he had more interceptions, but you could put that on a number of different factors. They upgraded the offensive line. They did lose Brandon Cooks, but I don't think that was a huge loss for them because they have plenty of talent that they liked behind him, including more speedy guys. So, and they brought in new weapons as well. Drew Brees is also on a prove-it year, so let's not forget that. But it all boils down to, the reason I have him at 4 and not 2 or 3 is because of, like CJ said, he does have notable home road splits, especially indoor-outdoor. If he's at home, if he's in the Superdome, you start him. I really don't care who he's playing. But, on the road, especially if it's an outdoor stadium, I mean, it's strange to think that a guy of this talent could be affected by that, but the stats and the trends back it up, so it's something to take into account. That's the only reason. I mean, this is why I'm a believer more in tiers than actual numerical numbering. All these guys fall right into that quarterback 1, quarterback 2 tier for me, so it's not really that big of a discrepancy. But yeah, a guy who... why not? Take him top 3. I like it. Let's move on to this next guy, Matt Ryan. Number 4 on our boards. I have him at 5, CJ at 6, Jason at 4. So Jason, being the highest, I'm going to throw it to you again. Why is Matt Ryan a top 5 quarterback for fantasy?
Well, I'll start with why he might not be considered for that position, and that is because of the new offensive coordinator. However, having said that, this is a guy that I see as being a very prolific passer. He's in the best offense in the league right now. He's got Julio Jones to throw the ball to. He's got weapons all over the field. He's got 2 very, very good running backs, and he's extremely accurate. So I really like Matt Ryan, and I see him not necessarily repeating, because obviously this was his career year this last year, but I could definitely see him getting close to those numbers.
Yep.
Well, Jason, I question if he has the best offense, because just like you said, he has a new offensive coordinator. I agree with you that he has the good weapons around him. I can say that, but we've yet to see what this offense can be able to do with Sarkisian being the offensive coordinator. Now, granted, we hope that they stick close to the scheme Shanahan was doing, but like you and I know, new regimes come in, they want to put their fingerprint on the offense and all the stuff, so we don't know what that's about. We heard good things talking about Julio Jones getting in the mix more in red zones. We heard good things about him doing a one running back set, and he likes his one running back and do that thing. So Devontae Freeman's good news, but it's a lot of still uncertainty what's going on with this offense, and that's why I have him down at number 6. That plus I still think that Super Bowl hangover is going to lurk around him, and I know they've done a lot of trying to get their minds right and start talking to Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr, what happened to them when they lost the championship. So they're taking procedures and stuff to try to get and hope that doesn't happen. But I still think that's something to be taken note, man. That's a big loss, and I think that still carries with you years and years even after that game.
Yeah, it's fair. And the Super Bowl hangover, whether you believe in superstition or not, it has been a noted trend for almost every team, except for the few dynasty teams out there. That's going to be hard to come over psychologically, all of that. But, on the positive side, yes, everything is still in place. They lost basically nothing from last year's Super Bowl run to, obviously falling short, NFC title, let's say that, to this year, except for the loss at offensive coordinator. But, if you look across his career, there are some notable things to point out. For starters, he was incredibly efficient last year. Last year was the only year he's ever had a passer rating in the hundreds. He did this throwing for the most yards he's ever thrown for, for the most touchdowns he's ever thrown for on the least attempts that he's had since his sophomore year. So that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 year span. So, I mean, obviously, love it or hate it, Kyle Shanahan's offense, the way they built things, it worked perfectly. Now, if there's a drastic shift away from that, you have to assume he's going to fall more down to the average of his career, which is kind of the concern, which is why some people are kind of still riding high on him. Some have really started to fall on him. He did throw for just under 5,000 yards, so, I mean, there's volume, there's touchdowns, his interceptions were low, but, I mean, you know, bottom line, the offensive coordinator, that's a huge thing to lose. And even if he says that he's not going to change things, he's going to make some wrinkles of his own, and his play calling is going to be different. So rarely do these things work out seamlessly, and even more rarely than that are they a positive shift, especially from how high-flying they were in the previous year from year to year. So, you know, I do like him, and he is going currently as the 4th quarterback off the board, and I'm okay with that. I'm just thinking that if you're expecting his production to be on the same level as it was last year, I might temper expectations. But still a guy definitely worthy of being one of these top. He should finish as a number 1 quarterback. We all obviously agree with that because we all have him except for CJ in our top 5. Agreed?
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
All right. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to a guy who has made a jump since the last time we did one of these shows, Andrew Luck. And he made a jump because CJ finally seeing some daylight. Jason and I haven't moved. I have him at 3. Jason at 5. CJ giving him a bump from 15 up to 10. Big jump there. So I guess I'll start as the resident Andrew Luck fan. And it's not even really that I'm a fan. It's just that I know the talent that is Andrew Luck. And, you know, whether you love him or hate him, he gets good fantasy production. Now, obviously, this is going to boil down to injuries, but they did make moves to try and shore up that offensive line. They brought in more weapons of the running game. The wide receivers are going to take another step forward this year. They brought in another wide receiver from my Ravens. Oh, my God, why am I blanking on his name? Whatever. They brought in another wide receiver who is going to contest for that number 3 spot.
Aiken, maybe?
Aiken, thank you. Kamar Aiken. Hey, thank you, CJ. So, you know, he's a very sure-handed receiver, good route runner. So, I mean, and, you know, they still have good pass-catching tight ends. Andrew Luck has just shown it throughout his career that when he's healthy and that offense is moving, he puts up a lot of production. And, you know, we go back a couple years where he was, 40 touchdowns and 4,700 yards. I mean, that was before he got injured in 2015, and he was playing through that injury. Obviously, it knocked him out of 2015, and then he played through 2016 still with that injury lingering. The surgery was to correct that problem. If he can get back to that pace and even take another step forward, there's no reason to believe he doesn't finish concretely as a top 5 quarterback. So I'm just very high on him. I know injuries could derail this, and I'm not blind to that, and that's why these rankings are fluid. If you guys are listening, if you want to see our live rankings, head over to the website, thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. By the time you're listening to this, our rankings could already be different, just saying. But that's why I'm high on Andrew Luck. I'm just a believer in the talent there and the opportunity. CJ, you're by far the lowest. I think everyone knows why, but why don't you weigh in here?
Well, listen, I just want to put this out there. I hope you guys know that I don't disrespect or diminish the talent of Andrew Luck. I mean, the dude was, the first overall pick in the draft, and he's shown that he's a gunslinger. He's shown that he's going to get you those points. He's up there with, like, Matthew Stafford. I mean, they just throw the ball just exhaustively. But the thing that gets me with him is that the organization does not believe in him. And why I say believe him? Because they don't put the proper amount of talent around him to protect him, man. Getting him a proper running game, getting him an offensive line so he can be able to stay healthy. When I hear that he's been playing through injuries last 2 years, and 1 year he's set out, that scares the crap out of me, because it's basically showing me that he's just a piece of meat to you. You don't believe in the talent that he is, and that you want to be able to protect that. So look, I've been bashed on this show saying that why I had him at 15. Why I'm at 15? Because it was already projected out there that he's going to miss 6 weeks of football, and that's still to be determined. That means that this man is not going to be on your team playing football, getting you points for almost a good half of the season. What is the point of having this man top 5 or top 10 when this dude is not going to be playing? That is a problem for me. That's why I had Andrew Luck at 15. I'm going to be a little optimistic like my host and put him in the top 10, but I'm still grudgingly putting him there because that injury stuff, it scares the crap out of me, and I don't like it.
Yep. Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of you guys. I actually am numerically in the middle of you guys. And the reason is because I see both sides of the argument. I love Andrew Luck's upside, like all three of us have said. He is extremely talented. He's got a fantastic arm. He's got a great head for football. And he finishes very well every year, despite having a bad year. I mean, his bad year would be a fantastic year for other quarterbacks in the league. So that's all good. But I completely agree with CJ. It is scary. The amount of times you see this kid hit the turf, his head bouncing off the turf all the time, that's scary. They need that offensive line to play better. They need to surround this guy with more talent on that line. That's my main issue. I mean, he's got T.Y. Hilton. He's got some great. He's got Frank Gore. He's got some great weapons to go to, but he could be, and I got him at number 5. He could be top 3, like what you have him at, Griffin. He's not right now. I mean,
right.
I completely disagree with him being in the top 3. He's just not, and it's not his fault. It's his team. But bottom line is, he could be better than he is. Despite that, I think he's the 5th best quarterback in the league.
That's fair. And yeah, shoulder injury on his throwing shoulder, of course. That's what happened back in 2015. Obviously, what knocked him out was the lacerated kidney, which was a freak injury. And then they thought he was good through rehab in 2016, just to clarify here. And he played through it in 2016, realizing something was wrong. So hopefully he'll be all better. And, we as we said earlier in the show, yeah, there was some rumors of timetables that pushed him out for 6 weeks. But the general manager coming out and saying that they're expecting him to be on pace to start the first week. So, it's early in the training camp. First preseason game hasn't been played, at least for them. If you include the Hall of Fame game, then yes, it has. But, time will tell. And, again, these rankings are fluid. If he gets confirmed to miss some time, he's going to plummet down our rankings, just saying. Let's move on to the number 6 guy, Jameis Winston, who has moved down a spot. Jameis Winston, actually, did he move up? He moved up a spot. Whoa, that's the wrong color.
He moved up a spot.
Hey, look at that. Jameis Winston, who has moved up. He's moved down my rankings, though. Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. I have him at 8. CJ at 5. Jason at 7. So, CJ, tell me why you have him as one of your top 5 quarterbacks.
I put him in top 5 quarterback because the man is super competitive. I mean, everybody on this list is competitive. I love his just competitive spirit, man, and then the talent that's been around him. I mean, you bring in the Deshaun Jackson. You saw the numbers that he put up in a very dysfunctional Redskins offense. I mean, he did good there. He's bringing in other talent. You got another year of Cameron Brate there in the system. You bring in O.J. Howard. That's going to be good as far as a blocker, but I think that his talent has not been utilized yet as far as passing. I think he's going to be really good in the passing game as well. You get another year with him and Mike Evans. They showed great chemistry last year, and they put up good numbers. And then you got a running game in there. I think this is going to be Doug Martin's year for him to be able to break out just like he did a couple years ago. So you put all that around him, man, and he has a decent line. I think this is going to be a great year for Jameis Winston. He can put up some great numbers for you in fantasy football.
Jason?
Yeah, I agree. I like Jameis Winston a lot. I think that he's playing on the best team that he's played on so far. His time in the NFL, he's got some fantastic targets to go to, and I mean he's got to feel like a kid in a candy shop. He's got so many clubs in his bag now to choose from. So and he's already played extremely well for his age. So I think this is going to be a good breakout year for Jameis Winston. We're going to really see what he can do. And that kid, I tell you what, I saw him heave the ball down the field one time during a play, and it was like, whoa, that guy's got an arm. So I can't wait to see what he does this year.
Yeah, Jameis Winston, I mean, we're all high on him. I think as a whole, we're higher on him than the majority of the industry. And the reason is because of a lot of things you guys have said. He has a crazy strong arm. He's got more talent around him on the offensive side, pass catchers especially, than he's ever had. But I've moved him down for a couple reasons. Primarily, if I went back and looked at a lot of his tape, and he's just very inconsistent. His targets are not very accurate, especially like his instinct under pressure is to heave it up, throw it downfield, kind of see what happens, which, as we talked about, is really good with the addition of Deshaun Jackson, but, I mean, it's not quality targets, so that kind of concerns me. He's barely thrown for 4,000 passing yards each of his first 2 years. He has yet to even get into the 90s as an average passer rating. So these are all just reasons that I'm kind of concerned, and I bumped him down a little bit, but, the upside of all of the weapons that have been added, he's going to have so many options to go to. We all expect him to take that magical third-year jump. So that's why, I didn't knock him out of my quarterback once because I made a big negative argument there, but I'm the lowest, so I think that's this side of the argument I'm bringing. So just things to look out for, and I think that's why people as a whole, as an industry, are not quite as high as we are because they're being a little bit more cautious, wait and see. And, maybe if he looks really good in preseason, he'll start getting up to where we have him. Time will tell. At number 7, we have Phillip Rivers, quarterback, Los Angeles Chargers. Now, he has moved down a couple spots for us. I have him at 7. CJ all the way up at 4. Jason down at 11. So, CJ, the highest yet again. I'm throwing it to you, buddy. Why is Phillip Rivers a top 5 talent to you?
First of all, you see the man's track record. I think he had a bad year last year, and it was still a good year. He still was heaving that ball down the field, still getting good points. I remember seeing him on the waiver wire and a couple of our leagues, and he got picked up, and a lot of those guys rode him to the playoffs. Because he was just putting up good numbers for you. Now, you go to projecting this year, he has even more talent, the most talent I've ever seen Phillip Rivers have. You got those plethora of receivers that he has there. We know Mike Williams is most likely going to be sitting out, but he can probably come back later on and make an impact. You got Keenan Allen. Hopefully he can be able to play 16 games. Everything that we reported in camp said that he's been working good and making crisp routes and showing that he's the number one guy. Got Terrell Williams there. Dontrell Inman, he's doing great. And then you got the running game with Melvin Gordon. A lot of people are sleeping on him. Don't think that he's going to be good, but I think that he's going to be able to get into the passing game, be a good runner. You got those 2 tight ends with Henry and Antonio Gates. Just a lot of talent, and everything is stacked. The only con I would probably say is, once again, they did move. They moved from San Diego to LA. Hopefully the travel and the move was a little better than we did with with the Rams. But outside of that, I think this is a great year. I think Phillip Rivers is poised for a great year in LA.
All right, Jason, the lowest. Why are you weighing here?
Yeah. I hate having Phillip Rivers this low because I like his style of play. The gunslinger. He's always been one of those guys. I feel bad for him because his team has just never been able to get over the hump. He's never been able to really fulfill his potential. But I'm really concerned about this move. We saw what it did to Todd Gurley. He had a fantastic season. Then they moved, and he had a horrible season. And this is usually, more often than not, that's what happens when a team moves. They're disoriented. They play not as well as they could have. So I kind of think he's going to take a step back because of that this year. And I'm not sure I trust all of his weapons. You know me, I'm not a big Keenan Allen fan. And a lot of his other weapons are a little bit unproven. So that's why I have him as low as I do. He's still obviously a quarterback 1 to me. I would have no problem taking him, having him on my team, but I think he's going to take a step back this year.
I'm in between you guys. I'm kind of on the fence of which way I'm truly leaning, which is why I think it's kind of appropriate that I'm in the middle. I have a lot of concerns for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, Jason. He took a step down last year in a couple of his important categories. His interception rate was drastically increased. His average over his career was not nearly what he was throwing. His touchdowns, they were pretty good. He had 33 touchdowns, which is right around his career average on the higher end of the spectrum. But his passer rating was down. A lot of attempts, not a lot of completions, and a lot of that had to do with who he was throwing to. He had a lot of new pieces to that offense. Obviously, Tyrell Williams, he was their leading receiver. He had 69 receptions, but he had 69 catches on 120 targets. just to put that out there, kind of something to think about. And he still barely broke 1,000 yards. Dontrell Inman, he was very flashy, hot and cold. Travis Benjamin, who they brought in to be this kind of versatile wide receiver, he didn't really find a role in the offense. Obviously, Keenan Allen going down at the beginning of the year didn't help. Hunter Henry was a nice surprise, but Antonio Gates being there, that's kind of a... it's good for the quarterback, but not great for fantasy. But Antonio Gates was kind of underwhelming as a whole. These are concerns. And, you know, we thought the reason why I think he was higher initially is because we were really high on the moves that they made this offseason, bringing in veterans, really good drafting. I mean, they got Mike Williams, which we all thought initially was kind of like, why would they do that? And then, you know, he's going to be just a really good red zone threat, a massive wide receiver. Well, he's hurt. So we don't know the exact timetable for when he's going to be back, or it's still not completely ruled out if he's going to need back surgery. So just saying, something to think about. Also, I forgot to mention this in the show doc. Their second-round pick, Forrest Lamp, who's going to be their starting offensive guard. He's out for the year, knee injuries.
Oh,
Injuries galore. So basically, they're not operating with any additions through the draft until you get to their third-round pick. Another offensive guard, but just saying. So I'm pumping the brakes. I'm waiting to see because I like CJ. I love Phillip Rivers. I love the talent. He's got tons of weapons to throw to. But the new city, the new location, the injuries that have been happening thus far, and the unproven people coming back from injury, Keenan Allen, who he's been injured each of the last 2 years. If they lose him again, they're getting right back to where they were last year, where they're having a hard time finding consistency in that offense. So, these are just concerns, which is why I'm kind of on the fence one way or another. I still like Phillip Rivers. I still have him as a top 10 quarterback. Just things to watch during the preseason. Let's move on. Number 8, we have Derek Carr, quarterback, Oakland Raiders. Now, I'm the lowest, actually, on him at 10. CJ, the highest at 7. Jason, you're at 9. So, CJ, throwing this to you yet again, buddy, the highest. Tell me why Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback.
Top 10 quarterback. You saw the performance that man put up last year. I mean, it was magical. I mean, that man just brought life to that city of Oakland, man. The Raiders was on a great run. I mean, mostly because of this guy. I mean, you see the talent that's around him. This dude made Michael Crabtree back to being that top receiver that we saw out of college. Why he was in that wasteland of San Francisco and got out of there. And now he started becoming productive. I mean, he showed splashes with Amari Cooper, his first rookie season, and then Amari Cooper's been somewhat decent, I guess. But Derek Carr he makes money with the people that's around him. Now I like the additions of Marshawn Lynch being there. I think that's definitely going to help him. I like Jared Cook being down there. They have a legit target in the tight end position, and he's a great talent. I think him and Derek Carr are going to be able to have good production this year. And then the final point is that offensive line. That offensive line is one of the top offensive lines in the league, rivaling Dallas's offensive line. So that's always good. I mean, the guy's going to be protected. He will get the ball down the field. And then they got Carlos Patterson they're going to add in there. Supposed to be a speed threat. So he just a lot of signs going up for Derek Carr this year for me. I mean, you just keep bringing weapons in there, and you paid the man, so the man's excited. He's going to do things for you, man, because he's appreciative of you believing in him. Just all good things that I like from Derek Carr.
Yep. Jason, do you want to weigh in here, or do you want me to go because I'm the lowest?
You go ahead and go, man.
All right, Derek Carr, look, I'm a believer. I like him a lot. I mean, this is a very exciting team. It's a very young team. There's a lot of pieces that we really like here, and we're kind of seeing this team that, people didn't really give the time of day to just a couple years ago that just came out and had a very surprising year. But bottom line, Derek Carr, I have to pump the brakes on a little bit. And it's not for anything about him. He's a very talented guy. They've brought in additional weapons, but it has to play with, obviously, coming off of injury. We got to make sure that he's back in good shape because a lot of these leg injuries, sometimes they take a year or so to come back from. It depends on the injury. This one shouldn't really play into that, but that can lead you to be a little bit skittish. I don't know. These little contributing factors. The biggest thing that has me concerned here is the fact that he plays in the AFC West. Very good division, defenses in that division, I should say. If you throw out the games against the Chargers, because obviously the Chargers, everybody kind of walked all over last year. The first time they played them in Week 5, if you go through Denver, he had 7.6 points. If you go to Kansas City, 4.98. And that was kind of the pace he was on. The first time he played Kansas City was 11.8. So, I mean, he struggled, and then he didn't get to play Denver a second time because he was out. So, I mean, he's hot and cold when he plays his division. His division knows him. They're good defenses. So that's why just that little bit, that competition, he has to play 6 games against these defenses. And we all expect the Rams to take that step forward because we know they're very talented. They were just being, if you watched All or Nothing, you saw they were just being very poorly led. So,
Rams.
The Rams are in the NFC, man.
Oh, sorry, Chargers. What am I saying? I am all turned around. The Chargers defense was underwhelming. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Oh my God, kill me now. I just can't get around this double Los Angeles thing. It's throwing me for a loop. Oh, Jesus. Either way, still not good. He struggled against the defense, and the defense wasn't great. They did make additions. I'm on the right track now. So, I don't know. It's the divisional opponents that scare me off a little bit, but I still have him, rated as a starter caliber. He's still in my top 10. So now that I'm an idiot and I was talking about the wrong team, Jason, you jump in here.
Yeah, well, you make very good points. I mean, he's playing against some of the best defenses in the league in his division. But I think that he is going to take another step forward this year. I think Amari Cooper is going to take a step forward this year, and that's going to give him a dimension that he hasn't had, which is that superstar wide receiver. Crabtree's solid. He's got some solid guys, but he hasn't really had that superstar caliber guy yet. Now he's going to, in my opinion. I think Amari Cooper is going to take that step. So, third year for him, third year for for everybody. And I think that's what we're going to see. I really like Derek Carr. I'm very high on him. I don't think the injury is going to play into it at all. I don't think it's going to bother him at all. And I think we're going to see him take a massive step forward.
Yeah. I mean, again, I believe it, and I could see it. That's why I have him as a top 10. I'm just saying that these are my concerns. I figured out what I did wrong because I was looking at this next guy, Russell Wilson, who is in the Rams division, thinking, how the heck is Russell Wilson this low on our rankings? And then I saw that you have him at 13, which had me thinking, why do you have him at 13? So number 9 is Russell Wilson.
Have him at 13?
Yeah, I am at 6. I'm the highest, which really shocks me because I'm not really big on the running quarterbacks. I'm probably going to end up bumping him down my rankings. I have to look at my stats on why I have him where I have him. But, rushing quarterbacks, they get a lot of points. CJ's at 8. I expected you to be the highest, CJ. Jason at 13. So, I guess I'll go first because I'm the highest. And it literally comes down to the fact that, again, a mobile quarterback on a good team with a good defense. They're going to have good field position, as they always do. He's healthy this year, something he was not for the majority of the year last year. A lot of lower body injuries. That offensive line should be back and healthy and doing well. The pass-catching game is all kinds of, meshing better, improved. Jimmy Graham is back from injury, who is going to be their big pass-catching red zone weapon. The running game with Eddie Lacy should be massively upgraded, and the run option, the shotgun-style stuff, the pistol stuff that they can do with Eddie Lacy and Russell Wilson back there, and then obviously play action throwing the ball. I just think Russell Wilson is going to be able to have a very successful year. I still feel like I might be a little bit high, but I also think he could return as the number 6 where I have him right now, which obviously I do because I base my rankings based on statting guys out. So I'll have to look at that. I'm going to throw this all the way to Jason, though, because you have him outside the quarterback ones. So, Jason, tell me about Russell.
So there's 3 strikes against Russell Wilson for me. First strike, he is a mobile quarterback. I don't like mobile quarterbacks. I like quarterbacks that stand in the pocket and find their receivers. So that's strike 1. Strike 2 is the fact that he is a Seahawk. I'm sorry. That just automatically gets you a strike.
Wow.
Okay?
I called CJ biased. Jeez.
Hey, he's still number 13. Okay, come on. I didn't freak out on
That's outside the quarterback ones.
That seems high to me, to be honest with you. But anyway, that's strike 2. Strike 3, he's got to play us twice a year. He's got to play the Rams twice a year, who both have very good defenses. Luckily for him, San Francisco is rebuilding and won't be really a threat for a little while. So that's why I have him at 13. Now, is that a little bit biased? Yeah, it probably is. But I just don't believe in Russell Wilson. I have to see. Now, I'll give you some positives so that it doesn't sound like I'm just crapping on him. I really like Jimmy Graham. He is my number 3 tight end in the league. So I think he's gonna help out with that. He's gonna help with the touchdowns and receptions. So just due to that, I may push Russell Wilson a bit up my board here in the upcoming weeks as I see what happens in preseason. But for right now, this is where I have him, and partially it's NFC West bias.
All right, at least you can admit it. CJ, real fast, tell me about your thoughts.
I like Russell Wilson because, first of all, he's coming off an injury. He's going to be healthy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with that offensive line, so they brought in some pieces, so that's good. Second, I like the receiving core that we saw from him, the emerging receiving core. That he has a very young receiving core there that I think that's going to be really great. Tyler Lockett's coming back off of an injury. He got that kid Richardson that's really good. He showed great promise in that Detroit game in the playoffs.
Paul Richardson.
And of course you got Paul Richardson. Then you got my boy Doug Baldwin. He's really good, consistent player that I like. Then Jason, like Jason said, I mean, you talking about Jimmy Graham. He's going to be good. I like C.J. Prosise this year. Mm-hmm. Like Eddie Lacy, like you were saying. So all this stuff is positives to me. And I think this is a year Russell Wilson goes back to being, when he was a football darling for us. When as they start going to the playoffs and the Super Bowl, I think they're poised to going back and trying to get back into the hunt, because I think the clock is ticking on how good this team could be until it starts getting a little cap casualty. But that's why I like Russell Wilson. I think this is going to be a good year for him, and that's why I got him at number 8.
I agree. All right, so with that, let's move on. Last 3 guys. Number 10, we have Kirk Cousins. Now, this is a guy who's moved up quite a bit for us. He wasn't even in our top 12 last time we did this. So I'm at 9, CJ at 15, Jason at 6. Oh, man, if this isn't NFC biased. Okay, Jason, let's start with you. You're the highest.
Speaking of NFC bias.
I know, right?
All right. Yeah. All right, so look, the guy threw almost 5,000 yards last year. He's got a very good receiver in Pryor that's coming in there, and they're already syncing up and got a good rapport with each other. And by the way, this is a contract year. Okay, this is going to be, and I don't put a lot of stock in that normally. I'm not a big contract year fan. I'm not sitting here going, oh, he's going to play harder because it's a contract year. But in this particular case, I think he's been slighted so often by this team that I think he wants to show them exactly what they're going to lose next year and when he goes over to San Francisco, in my opinion. So I think he's going to play very well this year. He's going to play with a chip on his shoulder all year, and he's going to put up big numbers like he always does.
Yep. CJ, since you are so incredibly low on him, why don't you weigh in next?
Listen, man, my main concerns with Kirk Cousins is this, man. I guess it's a contract year, but I don't think he has to prove anything else outside of the stuff that he's already done. He's already a team that's waiting for him to be up out of there and be released so he can be their starting quarterback. I think he's just getting tired of the disrespect with these Redskins now. Look, I'm not going to take a shot at him and say that he's not going to go out there and perform, but I just don't. I think this is like with anybody. I mean, you feel the disrespect at your job. You're better. They keep treating you like crap. So you just do subpar work because I mean that's what they're getting. They give you subpar pay and subpar respect. They get subpar work. So I think that's what he's going to be doing, Kirk Cousins. I mean, because he doesn't have to prove anything else. I don't see him going out there fighting because there's nothing. He doesn't have nothing to fight for because the organization just shows you that they don't believe in you. So why would you go out there and give your 110% when they don't give a crap, basically. So, and I don't like the talent that's around him. I mean, yeah, Terrell Pryor is a good start, but like when we talking about Jordan Reed, the one guy that I would think that's the consistent, that is security blanket, he's always hurt. I don't think Jamison Crowder is going to take a step forward. I don't like the dude. What's the other? I don't like Doxson. This is a rookie year for him. I got people projecting him to be a fantasy darling, and this is really our first crack at seeing this dude as a receiver being the number 2 projectedly. So I mean, there's a lot of question marks to me with this Redskins offense, and when that's happening, somebody's got to take the bullet, and I think Kirk Cousins is going to take that bullet, and that's why I got him at 15.
Wow. So I appropriately walked the line between the two of you. I see the upside. I see what you're seeing and saying there, CJ, where you're talking about how he doesn't have a lot to play for. But I concur that he does. I think that everyone knows he has a job. He's either going to stay in Washington or he's going to be more likely in San Francisco. But he's playing for the dollar. Like, the better he plays, the more leverage he has to get paid more money. So he still has incentive to play. And I don't know. I honestly, in a lot of ways, for this point in their careers, I kind of feel like, and when it's all said and done, the more I've looked at the Washington Redskins pass catchers, I feel like there's the possibility that they've upgraded. I mean, Pierre Garçon, he's in the back nine of his career. Deshaun Jackson, I mean, he's always been that boom-bust guy. They brought in Terrell Pryor, who was incredibly productive in his first year as a wide receiver in Cleveland, where he's going to get a much higher quality of target now with Kirk Cousins. Jamison Crowder was very good in limited snaps last year. I mean, he had 67 catches for 847 yards and 7 touchdowns. Pretty darn good. And as love it or hate it, Josh Doxson, he was a very high touted, very highly scouted draft pick. He a high tier receiver. If he can get to even a portion of what people think he could be, he could easily.
So was Johnny Manziel.
So I think everyone. How to word this carefully. I was never a believer in Johnny Manziel, and I was very happy to be right about that. And the fact that he went to a division rival for me, I just found all the sweeter. Josh Doxson, I saw a lot of flashes of. I think that the talent is there. Whether he puts it all together this year in his second year, if he can stay healthy, that all remains to be seen. But I think that he could be an asset to that team, but it remains to be seen. I think he's going to be the third wide receiver, at least obviously to start the season, so he'll have time to develop. I don't know. Kirk Cousins, he threw for just under 5,000 yards last year. He's a high volume, over 600 passing attempts, high yardage, decent touchdown ratio guy who also has one of the best pass catching tight ends in the league when healthy. So, but we got to keep moving. Let's move on to Marcus Mariota, who dropped a spot for us, and he is now our number 11 quarterback. I have him at 13. Jason, you have him at 8. You're the highest. CJ at 9. So, Jason, let's throw it to you. Why are you so high on Marcus Mariota?
They really upgraded around him. They really want to get him throwing the ball more. Yeah, I know about all the exotic smash mouth stuff, but I mean, you look at what they did in the draft and what they've done in the offseason. They've brought in some talent. They've brought in some pass catchers for him to throw to, and I really think that's going to give him the opportunity to shine and show what he can really do. So I expect him to take that step this year and take a step up into the ones.
All right. Should I go next because I'm the lowest?
Yes.
I'm very low on Marcus Mariota for no reason that has to do with his talent. I think he's incredibly talented. If, again, we're looking at things like passer rating, he's actually been much better than Jameis Winston. There's a lot of things you have to take into account here. He has yet to play a full season. He is shown to be injury-prone at the quarterback position. With that, he has yet to throw even near 4,000 yards. He did throw 26 touchdowns last year, which is pretty decent in 15 games. But, I mean, there's a lot to be desired there. And a lot of that had to do with, again, they were doing the smash mouth football, exotic smash mouth. They wanted to run, set up the run to run some more, and then every now and then they would throw the ball to Delaney Walker or Rashard Matthews. Well, I have him where I have him because they have upgraded. They drafted Corey Davis. They brought in Eric Decker. Rashard Matthews, we all really like a lot. Delaney Walker is still there. Both DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry can catch the ball. So, I mean, much like Jameis Winston, his situation is greatly improved. But we have to take into account injuries. Now, Eric Decker, he's still coming back from injury. We have to make sure that he's back to full speed. Delaney Walker's another year older. We all think he's kind of slowly on his way out. A lot of trends are pointing that way. Corey Davis, we just talked about, is getting MRIs on his hamstring, so we don't know the severity of that. He could very easily be back to just where he was a year ago. So that's why I'm hesitant at this point. He was good. I think he takes another step in his progression, but he himself is coming back from injury. There's just a lot of question marks, which is why I'm a little bit more hesitant on him. If I can get him, especially in the 2-quarterback league as my second quarterback, I am ecstatic. But, a lot of people have him rated up a lot higher than this. I don't know. CJ, what are your thoughts here?
Man, Marcus Mariota, I agree with you with the health thing. That's a big. Always got to be big when it comes to your quarterbacks. Can they stay healthy? Can they be on the field all 16 games so you can maximize the points and the talent that you see that person having? Can they be on the field? So I'll give you that. But outside of that, I just look at the weapon set around them. The Tennessee Titans. Once again, this is another young quarterback that they protected by bringing great weapons around him. I mean, they got it. They brought in Eric Decker. I think he's going to be a solid receiver for him. Got another year with Rashad Matthews there. You got Delaney Walker there. I know we have him projected taking a step down, but he's still a security blanket, a comfort for Marcus Mariota that he can be able to look to. Of course, we were talking about those two running backs. One probably down, but we want to get a good crack at Derrick Henry anyway. So I think this is a good shot at him be able to do that. That's going to help him. Another great point is that they have a good offensive line. I mean, it's up there, top 3 offensive lines in the league. And then the overall talent of just Marcus Mariota. I liked it from year 1. It kind of felt like he was a little robotic. Year 2, it felt like he was starting to come to his own. Started to be that quarterback we saw playing in Oregon. And I think that's all signs should be pointing up for him to be that dominant quarterback that is going to be a nightmare for defenses to deal with. So I like Marcus Mariota this year.
It's possible. And, I mean, you can get him late. He's going as the 12th quarterback right now. So, I mean, a lot of these guys we've been mentioning are actually going outside the quarterback ones on average draft position. So, I mean, if you do your research, you like these guys could be steals. Let's move on to our final quarterback.
Jason, talk about Marcus Mariota?
Jason started. Jason talked first. Yeah.
That is so late. I'm so sorry.
Number 12, our final quarterback, which we're going to go in depth on, is Eli Manning, which shockingly CJ is not super low on being an NFC East quarterback. I am the highest at 11, Jason at 12, CJ is the lowest at 13, but we're all basically right in line there. So I guess I'll start, and I mean, what more is there to say? Ben McAdoo is the head coach. He was the offensive coordinator. His system has not changed. We've seen Eli Manning be very productive in the system, and they have added weapons. I mean, obviously, he was decent. He was, by most accounts, a letdown last year because everybody was expecting him to take this massive jump, which just didn't end up happening. But, I mean, he's got Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, that alone gets you a lot of wiggle room in the rankings. You can throw that ball up, and obviously if it's anywhere within his wingspan, he's probably going to come down with it. But the big thing here, of course, Sterling Shepard, who was very good as a rookie, he's still there. Victor Cruz is gone, replaced with Brandon Marshall, which if you're anyone in this show except for CJ, you see that as a massive upgrade. They also went out and they drafted Evan Ingram, which shocked the world because everyone thought David Njoku was the locked-in number 2 tight end. They liked Evan Ingram. He's just a big, speedy wide receiver, essentially playing the tight end role, and that's what they were looking for. So he's got all these pass-catching options. They are in a very pass-heavy offense. They do run the ball quite a bit there as well, but they like to pass. Oh, do they like to pass? And now he's got all these weapons, all these red zone threats, all these options to funnel the ball through. Eli Manning, I think, is the main beneficiary of all the moves that they've made this offseason. They've tried to make upgrades to the offensive line. Paul Perkins, we all like as a potential runner that they're going to have to at least respect, so they can't drop back into coverage every single play. I mean, and we said this a lot in the past. This is a make or break year for Eli Manning, but all the pieces are there for him to make it happen this year. Let's throw it to CJ, who is the lowest. CJ, tell us why we should be a little bit lower on Eli.
You need to be a little lower on Eli because you just see Eli Manning's career. I mean, yeah, he shows promise, but then you get those old Eli moments that happen to just get stacked up.
I believe
week after week.
In Eli.
I mean, I just don't believe. I've never believed in Eli, man. I've criticized this man year after year because to me it just feels like every clutch moment that outside of those 2 fake Super Bowls that I don't believe in at all.
Hey, 2 Super Bowls against the Patriots. I mean, he's very hot and cold. I'll give you that.
Just so lucky. He's just so lucky, man. He's just garbage. But ever since then, I don't know what's so elite about this man. What has he done outside of that? Nothing. He's done nothing to show me that he's elite. So listen. Now I'm trying to stay on target because I really don't like Eli Manning. But this dude, look, yes, he got talent. He got talent that came in there. I like Evan Ingram. I hope that he can utilize him. He's one of the best tight ends I think that's come in there outside of Jeremy Shockey. So that's good. And then look, I hope they utilize Paul Perkins, but once again, this team shown that even when they were running with Rashard Jennings, they don't really run the ball like that, and that's detriment to Eli Manning because you don't want that man to keep passing the ball because he will throw picks, and those will be negatives on your score. And so that's one thing I don't like about them. And it's like, look, I'm not the right guy to ask about Eli because I don't like him. So Jason, why don't you talk about him, man?
He had less interceptions than Phillip Rivers. Just saying. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the fact that CJ is so low on him in real life, however, has him ranked as the 13th best quarterback, speaks volumes. I mean, obviously he doesn't like Eli Manning, but he has to respect the fact that Eli Manning has the best situation that he's probably ever had right now. He's got two number one receivers, and then he's got Sterling Shepard, who has proven to be a very good weapon. So right there, he's got the best receiving core he's ever had. Then you add into the mix guys like Evan Ingram, who is a wild card. He's going to get them an opportunity to do something more, and then they're going to have an upgraded offensive, an upgraded rushing game. And Paul Perkins, in my opinion, I think he's more dynamic than Jennings was. And then you look at that defense. That is a scary defense. That defense is going to keep them honest. You know, he's going to keep that offense humming along. He's going to be on the field a lot. So I think that Eli Manning is going to have the opportunity here to show exactly who he is. And I'm sorry, CJ, but you don't get lucky and win 2 Super Bowls. You know, I mean, he obviously is a good quarterback on a decent team. And I think this is the best opportunity Eli Manning has ever had to be an elite quarterback.
Coming from a fan who doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. So,
I do have a Super Bowl ring. It's just, it was before the league they came together.
Before it was the Super Bowl.
Just to be accurate.
All right, so looking back real fast, it's kind of fun to see our top 5 actually fall directly in line with the top 5 on ADP, and then it gets a little bit squirrely from there. But again, we have number 1, Aaron Rodgers. Number 2, Tom Brady. Number 3, Drew Brees. Number 4, Matt Ryan. Number 5, Andrew Luck. Number 6, Jameis Winston. Number 7, Phillip Rivers. Number 8, Derek Carr. Number 9, Russell Wilson. Number 10, Kirk Cousins. Number 11, Marcus Mariota. And number 12, Eli Manning. So just to run down the next tier of guys, just because people always ask us about streamers, and some of these names people may be surprised they haven't heard yet. At number 13, Ben Roethlisberger. 14, Carson Palmer. 15, Dak Prescott. Number 16, Matthew Stafford. Number 17, Blake Bortles. And you can guess who's bringing that one down. Number 18, Cam Newton. Number 19, Sam Bradford. Number 20, Andy Dalton. Number 21, Carson Wentz. Number 22, Tyrod Taylor. 23 is Ryan Tannehill. And then number 24, Alex Smith. Round out our top 2 tiers of quarterback. And a lot of those guys we can go in depth on, but we are way out of time. We'll probably touch on them a bit during our next Patreon show. But with that, we've got to get out of here. We're already at 2 hours. If you're still here, you deserve like a high five or a cookie or something.
Yes,
so you're definitely
digital high five.
Yeah,
your work day is just going by and by and by.
At least we know that this has all been good stuff. It's a lot of input and a lot of news. This is stuff that's going to be important if you're drafting. So with that, let's get the heck out of here. So that's going to do it for us today. Please make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday, where we will be talking our consensus tight end rankings. So switching it up, going wild card, doing tight ends. Remember, if you guys enjoy what you hear here and you want to play against us in fantasy football, or you want to support the show, easiest way to do that is simply head over to iTunes, subscribe to the show, give us a rating, give us a review. Helps the show out more than we could ever explain or express, and it gets you in the running to play against us in fantasy football this season. Just make sure at the end of your Just make sure at the end of your review you leave us an email address or a Twitter handle. Or if you want to go the extra mile, get your hands on all these Patreon shows we're always talking about, these bonus advanced topics. That's on patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. And remember, all these rankings, they are posted and they are updated regularly on the website, thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. And just make sure you guys come back every Tuesday, Friday. We're going to be here throughout the season, bringing you the stuff you hopefully can use to win your championships. Make sure you guys follow the show on Twitter, as we always mentioned, or if you want to follow us individually, if you like one of us more than you like the other two, I'm at GPalmerFFF. CJ is at CJ Hickman 89, and Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. So with that, we are out of here. Any parting thoughts, fellas?
No, please leave me alone. Ready to go.
We are ready to call it a show.
Seriously, bring it.
Bring it. We are mentally drained. There was a lot of good information. We're going to go prep for the next one. Everyone take care. Have a great weekend. We will see you on Tuesday, unless you tweet us or something like that. Take care. Bye.
Life in the fast lane, moving at the speed of life, and I can't slow down. Only got a gallon in the gas tank, but I'm almost at the finish line, so I can't stop now. I don't really know where I'm headed, just enjoying the ride. Just gonna roll till I drop and ride till I die.